But whether they'll stay with Letesembe is very questionable.
So the eagerly anticipated start here at the 2022 Valencia Trinidad Alfonso Marathon. Great conditions, Richard. Almost perfect. Minimal wind. Temperature-wise, it's around about the right degrees. You can see on the board there, it says 12, but it feels a little bit cooler than that, doesn't it, in terms of air temperature here, and just 18 meters elevation on a course. That's about as perfect as you can get. That's probably the biggest climb of the day there, Richard, right there on the screen.
Yeah, I think they say there's a 15-meter drop, because they start on the top of this bridge, the Monte Olivete bridge, and then they finish down on the level of the water that you can see behind the runners now. So yes, it's a very, very fast and flat course. You can see the men starting on the left-hand side, the women on the right-hand side. Scenes reminiscent of the start of the New York City Marathon, and they're the three male pacemakers leading out the men, and equally on the women's side we've actually got male pacemakers who are leading Letesembe, and they're leading women, and the course comes together after 700 meters. So a spectacular start as they go around that first big roundabout, and then they'll head out on the Avenida de Balerias, which takes them down to the port area. But you can already sense the excitement on the streets of Valencia this morning. Lots of people out, and I think we're going to see more and more people come out as they sense that history could be made here today.
And those aerial shots, I mean, that's the beautiful thing about Valencia. It's that mix of futuristic structures. You know, we've got a view of the hemispheric here at and the buildings of arts and science. It's absolutely beautiful, and it was only built, we couldn't believe it was only built, wasn't it, about the best part of 20 years ago. But the mix with old and new as well, the history that goes into the streets of Valencia, I think that's the amazing thing. And the people now, you can really see it. And talking to people here, a few years ago, it was seen as a hindrance having the marathon, the roads being closed, the impact of businesses, or the thought of the impact. Now they absolutely thrive it, and they come out in, as you said, in their thousands. You're going to talk later about the atmosphere in the last few kilometres. That it really does build, Richard, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, 20 years ago, Valencia just wasn't on the map in terms of world marathon running. I mean, the big city marathons in Spain were in Madrid, in Barcelona, in San Sebastian and Seville. But in the last 5 years, Valencia has climbed above all of those marathons, and not only has it become the biggest marathon in Spain, it's now one of the biggest marathons in the world. And I mean, it was interesting when Tamrat Tola, after his World Championship victory in Oregon in July, he was originally down to run the London Marathon in October, and then he decided that was going to be a bit too early for him to recover, come down off the high of his World Championship victory, and then run in early October in London. And he decided he was going to put back his next marathon to Valencia. I mean, he could have chosen New York, he could have chosen Fukuoka, but he chose to come here, and obviously good reason, because he knew how fast the course is here. And talking to his coach yesterday, I know that he's in very, very good shape. His coach, Gemadou Degafa, says, you know, he's in the best shape of his life, even better than he was in Oregon. So we can certainly expect an attack on the course record, Evans Chebet course record. In fact, Gemadou was saying that he'd asked for a slightly faster halfway split than the organisers were going for. They've actually said a halfway split of 61:20, which is under the course record pace. Gemadou said they'd requested a 61-minute split, which seems incredibly fast, but it just shows that Tamrat Tola has come into this race with a lot of confidence. I actually, James, was out in Ethiopia a couple of weeks ago and watched him train, do some pretty remarkable training at the high altitude of Sululta, which is the city just outside of Addis Ababa.
Yeah, what's the altitude up there, Richard? It's enough to get the lungs burning.
It's very high. I mean, Sululta, which is where they do a lot of the training, both Letisembet and Tamrat Tola, it's about 2,600 metres. It's just very easy to forget what altitude training does. Tamrat Tola, I think, did his last hard session last Sunday, did a 15k progression run, and apparently he ran the last 5k of that 15k in 14 minutes and 11 seconds, and this was at that altitude, 2,600 metres. So it's very high, and any athlete, particularly coming from sea level and trying to run the times that they normally run at sea level at that altitude, would really struggle. I think for Ethiopians and Kenyans and many other runners who are born at altitude, it is slightly different. But certainly it's what Ethiopian and Kenyan runners have built their success on over the last 4 or 5 decades.
And that's interesting, you talk about progression runs, because that's how he runs, doesn't he? He loves to push, doesn't he, the latter stages, and that's what we expect today. If he is, has gone to plan training-wise, we do expect him to push the final stages. But as we've seen previously, there could be many challenges out there. There's a lot of running to go first. When you do, we band around these 61:20 times, and they're talking about them being on the slow side. So, that a few years ago would have won you most half marathons up and down the world. But you can see on the screen there, the pacers wearing that kind of red and sort of orangey vest that the organisers have given all the pacers. So you will see those, and as you said, there are male pacemakers looking after the elite women's on that side as well. So there's 3 quality pacers at the front of the race right now, Richard, aren't they? That they've got such an important part of getting the race started, almost being economical and making sure that there's no major changes in pace over the first few kilometres.
Yeah, on the split screen there, you can see the next wave of runners. I suppose more the club runners who are going out. So we've got 6 waves starting between 8:15 and just after 9 o'clock, and 30,000 runners have registered for the race. I think they're hoping for around 23,000 finishers, which would be a record here for the race. And of course, returning the race to the size it was before the COVID pandemic. But yes, James, as you say, our eyes will be very much on the 2 elite races, the men on the left of the screen, the women on the right of the screen, and the women, they're being led out by 3 pacemakers. Interestingly, 2 of the pacemakers at the front of the women's race are training partners of Letisembet Gidai, Gidacho Negusi and Mabratu Workine. They have been with Letisembet over the last 3 months, training in Sululta, and obviously that will be an advantage for Letisembet.
Well, Workine's a 2:05 man himself, isn't he? So that's the quality of pacers. You've got a 2:05 athlete that, if we're looking at that 2:13 mark, that should be fairly comfortable. And you can see, making it look fairly comfortable, the pacers at the moment in the front group. And we'll try and get early splits. Obviously, we're 8 minutes in. We expect that first 5 kilometre split. There's a beautiful scene there of the port, Richard. So these shots back in the summer, we were told by the media crew here. But the marina, a beautiful part here. It got a renovation, didn't it? I think back in 2008 to 2010. It's a beautiful part, and the artist Joachim Suola painted many of his famous pictures down there. But beautiful for an evening stroll, and it's a lovely city, Richard, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I guess if you're a sailing fan, you will know the city because it hosted the America's Cup here 15 years ago in 2007 and again in 2010. And I think there's talk of them applying for the next edition of the America's Cup. And there's the next wave about to start. Just under 10 minutes into the start of the elite races, we see the second wave going off, and as I say, that's the second of 6 waves that are being staged here to get all the runners off and away from the City of Arts and Sciences. Yeah, in the men's race, it's going to be a very large group of runners. We've got a lot of runners who've recorded times of under 2:05. I think 8 athletes in total who have got best times for the marathon of under 2:05, led by Tola and Muller, the 2 Ethiopians. They're the only 2 athletes in the field with times of under 2:04. But we've got the former Kenyan marathon runner, Mike Keegan, now known as Kaan Keegan Osbilan, running for Turkey. He's the next fastest with a best time of 2:04.16.
Former European record holder set here, that 2:04.17. You know, wouldn't he love to get that record back?
I think he lost it, didn't he? Bashir Abdi.
Bashir Abdi, yes.
Yeah, took it from him. So, yep, as you said, James, a lot of people here with their own personal time goals and also national records in mind. I think last year's race saw 7 national records at the marathon, and yesterday at the technical meeting, Mark Roig, elite athlete coordinator, was talking about the possibility of 10 national records being set here today. So quite staggering in terms of what this marathon means in world marathon terms. I think they're hoping for almost 50 World Championship qualifying times for next summer's World Championship Marathon in Budapest.
Yeah, look out for Dan Whitwell there as well. The 3:33 1500 metre man. I was looking up. He's also run 1:48 for 800 metres, so that's some range. He's gone to 2:04.27 for the full marathon distance. So we don't tend to see too many 1500 metre runners step up with that much success at the marathon. And as I said, let's talk about a little bit about those debutants, the athletes that have, you know, run. When you're talking about athletes that have run 57 minutes for the half marathon, again, that's going to be fascinating to see that that translates. You know, we know it doesn't always work that way. Mr. Candy, an example of that, the winner here, but it doesn't always translate to the full distance, does it?
No, I think there's been quite a lot of talk about this, the new debutant, Alexander Mutisa from Kenya. He's only the 2nd athlete with a half marathon time under 58 minutes to run a marathon, as you say, James. The other one being Kibiwott Kandi, who ran in New York. But Alexander Mutisa, very interesting Kenyan athlete, but spends most of his time in Japan, where he's been for the last 7 years. Actually, he's got a Japanese coach, but he was saying at the press conference on Friday that he doesn't train by Japanese marathon methods, which is hard to believe with a Japanese coach, but he follows more the Kenyan marathon training methods. I think by that he means that marathon runners in Japan are typically known to do very high volumes, and Mutisa possibly doesn't run quite as high volumes as some of the well-known Japanese runners.
Yeah, it was an interesting choice, Kibiwott Kandi, going to New York, given that it's a tough old course, isn't it? You know, with you know, the amount of hills and also the you know, no pacemakers as well. So it's a little bit more of a controlled environment here in Valencia, where, you know, they know they're going to get a fast pace. They know obviously the conditions, you know, course and weather are usually favourable. So, you know, taking away some of the variables there. So hopefully it does make for a little bit easier transition. And over on the right-hand side, love this with the split screen. It makes such a refreshing difference, doesn't it, Richard, being able to see both the elite men and elite women. And you can see those men pacemakers on the right. Again, they're going to do such an important job. And there's a large pack, obviously. There's a lot of athletes that will be chasing that kind of 2:14 mark as well. And these are some of these are international athletes that are going to be vying for spots on various teams. Or I'm trying to look in there. There's a few that could have well been part of the European Championships this summer in Munich.
Yes, I suppose because this is a mixed race, you've got a lot of men who are running around the time that Letta Sembert is chasing, around 2:14, the women's world marathon record, and so she's surrounded largely by men, although I have also seen another female on her right in the black vest, Amane Beriso, also interestingly coached by Tamrat Tola's coach, Gemadu Deggafa. But yes, Letta Sembert absolutely surrounded by by male runners, with her 3 male pacemakers immediately in front of her, and a big posse of other male runners behind her.
So another debutant there in the middle of the 5 kilometre split coming up. And not some of it's coming up on the screen yet. Obviously got 15 minutes of running, but I think it was faster than the 15 minutes on the top right-hand corner, Richard.
I think actually some of the runners were looking for the first drink station, which actually comes at 5.5 kilometres. Typically, as we know, drink stations are positioned every 5 kilometres along the marathon course. But I think probably because of a few junctions, the race organisers have set the first drink station at 5.5 kilometres. But bang on time, slightly inside the course record of 2:03, just 2 seconds inside, 14:42, the first 5K split. And I think the reason why the runners are spread out over the width of the avenue there is because they can probably see the drink station ahead, and there's a few signs by the pacemakers. There they are. Now, that's where seconds can be gained and lost. There were a few stutters. I saw Gitani Molla, one of the fancied Ethiopians, dropping quite a long way back, and even Tamrat Tola having to check his stride to make sure he got his drink bottle.
Yeah, Richard, we've seen over the years that you know, even missing an early drink station can be devastating later on in the race, but also the kind of jostling for position, and we've seen people turn ankles and, you know, hurt themselves in that, as the women's 5 kilometre split on the screen there saying 16:08, so it's a controlled first 5 kilometres. So we were expecting a little bit faster than that, weren't we?
We were. I mean, that's 40 seconds outside the world record. It's probably more on course record pace. The course record set here 2 years ago by Perez Chipchirchir. So, yes, James, a pretty cautious start. Probably better that started cautiously rather than overdoes it. Just thinking back to what happened in Chicago a couple of months ago, when Ruth Chipinganich had an attempt on the world record, ran that blisteringly fast first half. I think it was under 66 minutes, but then came undone in the second half. So Letesenbet, yep, as you say, starting very cautiously, but having to be very careful. There's, well, that's good. She's just looking anxiously at her drinks bottle, just checking it is hers.
And she wasn't overly confident that was hers straight away. So she's kind of still looking at it, working out whether it is hers or not. And
having a word with her pacemaker, I think she is very concerned. We haven't seen her take any drink from that bottle, and she's just got it. Well, that was very interesting, wasn't it? Picked up the wrong bottle, and rightly, I think.
Well, looks like water there, Richard.
She's just got water.
Yeah.
Yeah. So missed her first drinks bottle, and I think will be even more anxious to make sure she gets her own drinks bottle at the 10 kilometre stage. Well, there we are, the third wave. As you can see, pretty much every 10 minutes they are setting off from the famous Montolivet Bridge, just above the Museum of Sciences, from where we're broadcasting this morning.
Gabriel Giai there is the Tanzanian athlete, wearing 8 on the central screen. He's another of the sub-205 athletes that we have in the field. Races a lot in the US, or has previously. He's also a fourth place finisher at Boston, and is also 7th in those World Championships. I mean, the depth in the World Championships this year, where 2:07.31 only gets you 7th place. We got so used, didn't we, to championship marathon, seeing kind of tactical times or, you know, a slight drop-off, but that was a turnaround. I was out in Eugene, and it was not a fast course. You know, you wouldn't have looked at it and said the times that were going to come from it and the depth as well. But I think that is the strength in marathon running, you know, that in 2022, that's also seen the world record in the men's. Eliud Kipchoge taken down further in Berlin. So, and then when we look down at the depth behind that in those world lists, you know, and that's why Valencia, they always have their eye, don't they, in December to see how much of a dent they can make in those world lists and how much of a dent into the fastest marathons in the world. They have such aspirations here year on year. And yeah, it's fascinating to see, because there is a battle, isn't there, Richard, between the marathon majors and the different marathons, because they're always in competition. These athletes that we see on the screen can only really race either one or two. If they're doing a major championships, then it might only be one of the majors, you know, of the marathons that are out there that they can choose. So it always reminds me of like a boxer picking your prize fight. You can't go into too many fights, otherwise, you know, that's going to be the end of you.
Yes, I think one of the changes that has happened with the new super shoes means that, I say super shoes, the carbon plate in the shoes, which has helped athletes recover more quickly from their races and particularly from marathons. And yes, I mean, for many, many years, you would say, James, that most of the world's top marathon runners limited their marathon performances to just 2 a year, you know, typically doing one in the spring and then one in the autumn. And I think one of the changes that we've seen with the new shoes is that marathon runners typically now feel they can recover more quickly. So to give an example, Tamrat Tolo ran in Tokyo in March, ran a very fast time there, and then won his world championship in Oregon in July, and here he is back on the streets of Valencia running his third marathon in 2022. Well, I think that's become very normal now. I mean, we see some marathon runners running big city marathons that are less than 2 months apart. I think one of the leading females today, Sutumu Kebede, she ran in London, finished 8th, and you know, here we are 9 weeks later, and she's doing another big city marathon. So I think because of the changes in shoe technology, marathon runners probably feel they can get squeeze another payday in.
Basically what you're saying, Richard, is with the super shoes you would have managed more than 8 marathons. Obviously 5 championships marathons, so you put your you know, your money and worth in those championships, but that is also something to judge, isn't it? And we had that in the summer. You know, so for some athletes, that they had 3 marathons. You know, obviously for a majority it was those world championships, but we also had the British and some of the obviously European athletes with the European Championships and the Commonwealth Games. We've got athletes that obviously featured in those Commonwealth Games, you know, running today as well. So it was a busy summer. For some, they mixed it, didn't they, between track and obviously going onto the road as well. So, but yeah, it's about picking those dates and those races, but also then picking yourself up. For some, we have athletes that didn't finish at the Worlds. We have athletes that, you know, as you said, didn't finish in London or previous marathons just a couple of months ago. And maybe they didn't overcook it, or they didn't get the race right on the day, and they stepped off. There's that point, isn't there, in the marathon where it's almost a point of no return, that you can actually step off and almost, you know, as long as you haven't caused yourself too much of a damage, you know, physically, mentally, that you can come back, you know, 6 weeks later and run very fast.
Yeah, I think the race organizer or the elite athlete coordinator here, Mark Roig, was saying on Friday at the press conference that it's actually become easier to attract some of the world's best to Valencia in the recent years. Obviously, partly because of the reputation that it's built up as being a very fast big city marathon, but also because athletes are actually looking for a very fast race at the end of the year. Obviously, they've got to choose between the likes of Chicago, Frankfurt, New York, and we're just seeing some of the leading Spanish runners. Number 10 there, Ayad Landerson, very well known.
The evergreen.
Yes. I think he's just into veteran ranks, isn't he, James?
Oh, he's phenomenal. I mean, I remember him, seems like years ago, getting out-kicked by Sergei Lebed in the European Cross Country Championships that take place next week in Turin again. But Yeah, he's 41. And obviously, yeah, that national record set last year in Seville, you know, 2:06.25. Obviously, you know, they're so passionate here. Jose Antonio Radulant, the former international 500-meter runner and champion of Spain, looks after the Spanish fields for this and the half marathon. He's also got, I think, 200 runners running for his own club. But again, they really want, as you said earlier, there's always been this competition between the different marathons in Spain and obviously pushing them. But obviously they've taken a huge jump, haven't they, the last few years in terms of the half and the marathon. And when you look down at the depth as well, the qualifying times, the personal best, the depth inside 2:10 as well. Yeah, I mean, that's testament to the event. But they would love the Spanish record to come back to Valencia, wouldn't they?
Yes, I think you're right. There is that competition particularly between Seville and Valencia, with the Spanish record being set earlier this year by Lamderson in Seville, 2:06.25, and that's definitely being targeted by the course organisers, sorry, the race organisers today, with pacemakers being set with that record in mind. So we're seeing the pacemakers right at the front of the race with the leading men, but we've got actually 5 sets of pacemakers in this men's race who are targeting different times, trying to help the runners to achieve personal goals and, as we say, a new Spanish record for the marathon.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, there are so many national records that are being chased. Faruqa had an Australian national record last night. Brett Robinson beating Di Costello's long-standing Australian record. So the Melbourne track athlete running, I think, 2:07.5 there. So that all got a lot of keyboards ticking along this morning, because he's a popular athlete, and yeah, great to see that long-standing Australian record finally beaten. But we will see, won't we, athletes chasing national records, and in the men's and the women's races.
Yeah, it's easy to forget how quickly national records and even course records and world records have moved on in the last 5 years. We're seeing again the leading Spanish runners on the right of the screen.
So you're right. Yeah, it was obviously. It seems like last year, but this year has been a big year for athletics. But you're right. It was back in February that Sam took that record back from obviously 12 months ago. That was Hamed Ben Duad that set the record here, that did stand at 2:06.35, but it only lasted a couple of months. And in that group as well, you see Julian Wanders as well. He's a much talked about athlete, isn't he? The Swiss athlete, the European record holder on the road, over 10 kilometers on the half marathon distance as well. But hasn't translated, again, I keep going on that, but that is, you know, a fact. He's run 2:11 for the marathon. He's someone that we would expect to run a lot faster, but that 2019 year he had was just so phenomenal. And it was almost as if the pandemic or the, you know, that change, he just either overtrained or didn't get it right in 2020 from then onwards. And he's someone that would love a big return today.
Yes, I mean, he said on Friday at the press conference that his first marathon in Paris didn't go as well as he hoped, and he hopes to make amends today. James, as you say, he is in that group with Lamderson, which is you know, set on that 2:06. So we've got an early indication of what he's aiming for, which you know, because he's the European, or was the European record holder for the half marathon, 59:55, we would expect him to be targeting around that 2:06. But he said at the press conference on Friday his training has gone very well. He spends most of his time now in Kenya, and I'm sure he's adopted a little bit of a Kenyan mindset.
And he's only 26, Richard, as well, isn't he? So you know, many marathon runners haven't got it right in the first marathon, and it is you know, it's a skill, and it is an event to learn as you go along.
Well, about 20 men in that leading group behind the 3 pacemakers. Just behind the 3 pacemakers, Walkane Tedessa, another Ethiopian, the best time of 2:05.07, and just behind Tedessa is one of the favourites, Tamrat Tola.
Yeah, Tedessa is in that NN running gear, isn't he? So a 2:05 man, just sat behind the pacers. Gabriel Guy, who we mentioned earlier, who was 8th last year, so he does have experience on the course. As I think that's Navas on the screen, just at the back of that group.
Yeah, young Spaniard who is, I think, making his debut here. And he's trying to stay with that clutch of Spanish runners. Also in the field today, Javier Guerra, who is a very, very strong runner. Ran 2:12.37 in Seville when Lamderson set the Spanish record, but just finished a few seconds behind Lamderson in the San Sebastian half marathon a few weeks ago. So there's a good indication the men are still within the course record, running very, very fast through 10 kilometers in 29 minutes and 15 seconds. So 9 seconds under the course record pace of Evans Jabet when he ran 2:03.00 here to win 2 years ago. Evans Jabet has had a quite remarkable year, having won Boston in April and then came back to win New York just last month.
Yeah, he is a phenomenal marathon runner, and given rise, that 2:03 here really elevated him. Obviously, he had such success prior to that, but I think having that super fast time as well, and he's shown he's a great racer as well.
I suppose in the same breath we ought to mention his coach, Claudio Berardelli, who is also the coach to Amos Kipruto, who won the London Marathon, and Benson Kipruto, who won the Chicago Marathon. So 4 out of the 6 World Marathon Majors marathon titles in the men's side have been won by athletes coached by Claudio Berardelli, the Italian coach now based in Kenya.
Yeah, that's not easy to do, is it? We talked a little bit last night, didn't we, about you know, the athletes and the amount in groups, and the athletes that you know, how many can a coach really look after? And interesting, G'day's coach is only looking after herself, isn't it? So fascinating that you know, the issues in the region as well, where she's from, has probably created that slightly smaller group as well. But you know, I think it's fascinating to see some of the larger groups, but the success that's come from some of those coaching groups as well.
No, exactly. I think you're absolutely right, James. I think the feature of particularly Kenyan and Ethiopian running is that the groups are overseen by one coach who might be coaching 60 to 80 athletes. Within those large groups, they've got maybe 2, 3, 4 star athletes, but it is unusual in the case of Letesemba Gide that her coach Haile Yasu is just solely focused on Letesemba. That's obviously an advantage to Letesemba, that you know, when Letesemba has been in training in the Netherlands, as she has done in the past year, and sometimes training in Kenya, the coach can go with the athlete. 32:03 for 10K for the women, so still down on the world record.
It's picking up though, and this is how she loves to run. You know, we saw with that half marathon world record that you know, going off a little bit more conservatively and just picking the pace up gradually. So she's definitely someone that likes that slow burn, and you know, it's about being smart. I think, you know, the unknown obviously for her today. I mean, they're operating, you know, still at, you know, very fast pace. You know, when you start going down, it's around about 2:15.5 pace at the moment. So we are outside world record pace, but we know with the potential she has in the latter stages to increase that. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that time check. And that is obviously 35 seconds outside of the current world record projection. But yeah, I'm going to be fascinated to see how much that comes down split by split.
I think you're absolutely right that Letesemba is hoping to pick the pace up. That's what she did in her half marathon. Came home very fast. Although I think the last 5K was slightly slower. I think the middle part of the race was where she ran very fast when she broke the world half marathon record here 14 months ago. Obviously the marathon's very, very different, and being cautious, as you say, James, is a very sensible way to go. So, I mean, her targeted pace is 3 minutes and 9 seconds per kilometre. And that's why they're saying, you know, 31:28 would be world record pace for 10K. She went through just outside 32 minutes. But as you say, James, it'll be interesting to see. You know, I wouldn't be at all surprised if she's sort of back on target or close to target when she goes through 20K. And the real challenge will come after 30K, and to see whether she can even pick up the pace, which is, I think, what her management team and what her coach have been planning on.
Yeah, it's definitely part of the plan. There'll be no panics about that first split whatsoever, knowing the damage that can be done in the latter stages. And that elite men's pack still so strong, and no one will want to show their cards at all at the moment. Mola there, the Ethiopian, as you said, that fast debut. And he ran sub 60 minutes for the half marathon distance in September. But he'd love to bring back that form from Dubai back in 2019. He's not quite had the form since that. And interestingly, I think I read that he's started his own clothing range as well. So an entrepreneur, yes, a businessman, and one of the world's best marathon runners. So he reminds me a little bit of Haile, because Haile was always, wasn't he, when he wasn't in his running kit, he was trying to do a bit of business. He's got a long way to go to get anywhere near what Haile has achieved in business, but you're right. It's nice to see you know, athletes who've been successful also trying to translate that talent into business. And obviously Haile is the role model for so many Ethiopians who've retired from athletics and then gone on to do well in business. The athletes actually now in the men's race on one of the quieter sections of the course at around that 12-kilometre, 13-kilometre point, where they actually head to the northern part of the city down the Boulevard del Norte, and then they'll turn around in a few minutes' time and then come back down into the city centre. Yeah, that university district that they went through for that 6, 7, 8, 9 kilometres, that's where the start and finish area of the half marathon is. So they would have been very familiar with that. It's, you know, again, it's, you know, super flat, it's enclosed roads, you know, it's a nice bit of running. You can see they've got lots of space. There's a great lot of ability for cyclists to get out on the course as well and see lots of the course. You can see those electric Hyundai cars, the lead cars with the clocks on there. You know, that'll be something that the athletes will keep an eye on. Most of them do have their own watches on, don't they, that will be giving them some GPS signals, but for others, you can see they're just be eyes on the prize, as in it's a race. I think for many of them, obviously, you know, the prize money or the performances are so important. And as they go through that 13-kilometre mark in just over 38 minutes, as you can see one of the support vehicles behind that. I make that just over 20 athletes in that lead pack, so it is strength in numbers at the moment. Obviously, that pace operating, you know, around the just over the 61-minute half marathon pace for the halfway split. So we've still got a lot of running to go. So we expect those numbers to whittle down as the kilometres increase, Richard. Well, I don't know about you, James, but I am hearing a lot of drums in my earphones, and I think that's because there are a lot of cheer points out on the course. We were told yesterday that there are actually more than 150 animation points, is what they call them here in Valencia, but I think we'd call them cheer zones, all around the course. So even though they're in one of the quieter parts of the course in terms of spectators, I think there's still a lot of noise out on the course just to add to the atmosphere. And on the right-hand screen, that's the second group. I would call them the chase group, but they're not going to be chasing that lead group down. So I very much doubt the overall winner's going to come from this, Pat. They're in their own private battle, but the fact they're operating around about the 2:06 mark as Ronald Kroa there at the front, the Kenyan athlete, again, 3 paces. I mean, that's the strength of this race, that you know that the different groups have 3 quality pacemakers, not just at the front, but in the second and the third, and it also goes down into the different time zones as well that are being chased. You said those World Championship qualifying times in Budapest also being chased, so that's going to be an exciting city as well for those athletes to run a marathon. It's a beautiful city, and after obviously such a busy summer this year, it'll be refreshing just to have 1 major championships next summer, Richard, won't it?
Yes, after such a busy summer this last summer, but great that the World Championships are going to be in Budapest. I actually ran my last marathon in Budapest in the European Championships. I think that was 24 years ago.
You didn't have to mention the year, Richard.
No. Anyway, back to the women's race on the right of your screen there. Looks as though Letta Sembert's group has thinned out a little bit. She's still got company of one of her compatriots.
Beriso, isn't it, the Kenyan? So you know, 2:20, 48 lifetime best, and the fact she's going out at that 2:15 marathon pace, I mean, that's pretty bold as well, isn't it, to get right onto the back of what is a potential world record, because that was the chat, wasn't it? And that was the unknown about what pace was going to be set. It was kept a little bit, not a secret, but I think the fact that she was not going to, you know, start out at, you know, a rocket speed. There was the unknown of that, and I think other athletes were just unsure whether to go with it or to hold back, because you know there's that middle ground, and yeah. But the fact that Beriso's gone with that's pretty bold, isn't it? It
is pretty bold, and I think, James, you're right to point out that there was always going to be a big gap between Letta Sembert's target finishing time and the goals of the other athletes, and I think as a result of that, one of the Ethiopians, as you say, Amane Beriso, has decided to take a chance in, if you like.
Sorry, yes, Ethiopian, not Kenyan, yes.
Well, I say that only because Amane Beriso is coached by Gemadu Degafa, who coaches Tola, and as you pointed out, there was a little bit of uncertainty as to what pace exactly Gide would be targeting, would be setting off at, and speaking to Gemadu yesterday, I was interested he was trying to find out what pace Gide was going to go out at, and I think specifically because he knew that his athlete, Amane Beriso, was probably in better shape than she's been before. You know, she's run 2:20 already, but probably hoping today to lower that considerably. Whether she can go as fast as world record, I very much doubt. But you know, what she's done so far is to see how far she can hang on with Letta Sembert, and maybe that will help her finish in a new personal best for her. Right at the back of the men's group there, Jonathan Correa, very well known and experienced marathon runner from Kenya, now 36 years old. Actually ran the Amsterdam Marathon, can you believe it, 11 years ago.
Wow.
But has got a best time of 2 hours, 4 minutes and 32 seconds. He's also part of the NN running team. And we can see about 4 or 5 athletes in that leading group in the white and orange of NN running.
Charlotte Desu there, the Ethiopian, also on the front of the screen as well. Previously second here 12 months ago. But he's definitely only 24 as well. So, you know, again, you know, he is someone that is going to be around for the next few years. So 2:05, 16, 12 months ago. And he was second in Sydney this year as well, but also the Paris champion. So he knows how to win as well. So he's someone that, you know, talking to people behind the scenes, that, you know, he's someone that has experience on the course, knows how to win now, and that's a bit of a skill as well. So also looking in there, Hiskel Twelde, 36. He's got a long sleeve top on. A little bit surprised. I know it can be a little bit chillier potentially, but yeah, I would have thought that maybe is a slight overkill for the athlete that was only 44th at World, so maybe he's not quite in the shape that he would want to be in. Obviously, the Eritrean, the 2:04 lifetime best, but yeah, way off that in Oregon this year. So the next split, Richard, will be 15 kilometers. So interestingly, world record pace for women, we're looking at inside 16 minutes per 5 kilometers. That would be world record pace. So 15:53 if you were running even pace. We know she was obviously outside that, you know, at the beginning, and obviously, hopefully, she has got that that second drinks bottle. There was obviously a little bit of concern, a little bit of panic, and hopefully it's been ironed out in that second drink station. How much practice did you do, Richard? Obviously, you know, going from the track to the road, you know, in terms of you know, drinks and being prepped for that.
I actually did a lot of practice, particularly before my first marathon, and even after running my first marathon with my coach out on the roads. You know, we actually put tables on the roads, quite village roads near to where I used to train.
The brilliant Bruce Tuller.
That's right, and I've got very good memories of practicing picking up my drinks bottle at speed. I think it's, I mean, some of the big city races that we've watched already this year, it's shown how important it is to be good at that. So the leading men actually bang on course record, so that 5K was slightly slower. I think they're just 1 second outside, but 43.54 through 15K. So the pacemakers doing a good job. Possibly just slowed a little bit, but I think there's no harm in making sure that they don't go too fast in the first half of the race.
Yeah, that last 5 kilometers is probably there are very few turns on this course, or more technical parts of the course, but there's probably a few more more technical elements to that last 5 kilometers. They've got some lot of straight roads coming up, so yeah, expect that maybe is why that there was just a slight drop off. But yeah, I mean, if you were asked as a pacer to hit course record pace, then that's almost absolutely job done in that first 15 kilometers.
Although I think we're expecting that at least a couple of the pacemakers have been asked to stay in the race until 25, if not 30K. They were actually told that the bus which will pick them up is going to be stationed at 33K. So I don't know whether that was an incentive for them to stay in the race as long as possible, just to give as much help to the runners before they get into the final 10K of the race.
So the paces themselves, Richard, so wearing 150 on the centre, Bernard Nogueiro. So, you know, he's a 59.07, isn't he? Lifetime best for the half marathon, and himself hasn't really translated that to the marathon either. Stanley Kurgat is the 151. So he's, again, very strong paces as well in there. And the other one, Charlo Regasa. So again, he's paced a few different races and also run 3:34 for 1,500 meters. I thought was a good little stat as well. So that's why the athlete went 1:52. He does look very economical, doesn't he? On the right-hand side of the screen, he probably looks the most controlled out of all of 3 of the pacers thus far.
But if he's coming from a 1,500 background, then maybe he is relieved that he's not going the full distance today.
Well, he's won the Valencia 10K as well, so 27.23. So that was his lifetime best on that distance. So
at the back of that group, wearing the bib number 12, is Alexander Mutiso. And as we're talking about pacemakers, I think we ought to point out that Mutiso is running his debut marathon today, but he was a pacemaker here last year. So I think that just goes to show that a lot of pacemakers learn their trade first by pacing the race and then actually stepping up and trying to run the full distance. So there's the splits for the leading women, 48.03. So I think, James, that bears out what you were saying, that they certainly haven't lost any more time on the world record pace that they're chasing, 48.03. So they're 30 seconds down on Bridget Koskai's world record.
Yeah, so it's a 16 flat, last 5 kilometres. But again, if we say that that was one of the more technical elements of the course, so that does mean they are operating at world record pace now. But obviously, yeah, that 40-second differential. And look, she looks very happy. She's got her bottle this time around. Sembet is that's going to calm the nerves, isn't it? Each of the bottles she gets, and obviously just the fact that there was that uncertainty in that first drink station. Hopefully that's forgotten now. She would have been really well fueled before the race, because a lot of it is about the fuel, isn't it? In the the days, not just on the morning, but the days prior to the race as well. So I know the NN team themselves, don't they, do a lot of work on nutrition. They are one of the teams that take it very, very seriously. I've seen the teams at London, making sure that each of the athletes, that it's precise, because there's a lot of measurements as well, isn't it, in terms of how much of the drinks. What did you take on, Richard? What was your kind of breakdown of carbohydrates during the race? Was it different through the different stages of the race?
I took just a carbohydrate drink for the first 30k, and then actually at the 35k point, I took an amino acid, and I was advised by a nutritionist, Eric Newsholm, and that it was actually more a drink that gave me a little bit more mental awareness. I think I suppose I concentrated more on just fueling in the middle sections, the early and middle sections of the race. In the last 10k, your mind can play funny games with you, and the amino acid drink was a way to also retain some mental freshness and alertness, and hopefully sort of overcome the feeling of tiredness. So yeah, people try different things, and as you say, I think nutrition has moved on quite a lot in the years since I was competing at this level.
Yeah, I think people talk about obviously the advance in shoe technology, but I do think it's been married alongside with the technology in refueling and fueling during a marathon as well. So we know the carbon plates, we know the foam within the shoes has obviously played a massive part in the developments in the training, as you said, the recovery from races, and obviously hard training as well. But yeah, the refueling during a race, because there is a sign, isn't there? There's a gantry, isn't there, here at 32 kilometers that you go through, isn't it? It says about the wall. So if you refuel or you're fueling as you go on, the wall doesn't really exist, does it?
Well, we see it very little now, where runners really, let's say the world's best marathon runners come apart in the last 10 kilometers of a race. It used to happen a lot in the 1960s and 70s when a lot less was known about fueling and about the right way to prepare in terms of nutrition for a race. But as you say, it does still happen. It does still happen to the world's best. I don't think we would expect to see it happen in Valencia at 32.8k, which is where they've got the
to be precise,
Rompe el Mur gantry on the course today. But yes, I mean, we know that's what happens in marathon running. When you come apart, you can come apart quite badly. But of course, so many of these runners, both on the men's and women's fields today, they run very long runs. I mean, we heard Gide say that she's run the marathon distance 3 times in training in the last 3 months. So that just goes to show how important the long run is, obviously, as much as they're all their pacing and interval sessions.
That's the leading US athlete, Ian Butler, on the screen there. So a lot, obviously, been interest, obviously in the marathon scene in the US. Obviously, Chicago, wasn't it, was pretty special again. And obviously, the buzz around New York is always there come November time. So that's why there's less US runners here that have travelled. It's predominantly Europe's best, and obviously alongside the best of East Africa.
But as you say, the fact that we've got a couple of top US marathon runners in the field today is again testimony to how Valencia's reputation as a city of marathon running has grown, because so many of US marathon runners, as you say, would just instinctively go for Chicago, New York, or obviously aim for Boston in the spring, or there are so many other very fast marathons in the States, but two of them are here in Spain trying to set personal bests.
I'm trying to remember whether Ian Butler was the athlete that ran in the other direction to catch a pace group back up in
absolutely right.
a marathon, which I've never seen that before. That you go out at a pace, you decide it's a bit too fast, and so it's almost like you do with a long run, or you double back and pick your friends up. But he doubled back, didn't he?
Yes.
And then picked the next group up. So, yeah, I've never seen anything like it.
You call me a purist, James, but when I hear of records like that, I think, well, I suppose if you can't break the world record or you can't beat your national record, why not set a record that gets you known like that?
So running backwards, well, not backwards, he didn't run backwards, he turned around and ran in the other direction.
I couldn't get close to that record, but I wouldn't aspire to it either.
Yeah, don't do that at home, kids. So just slow down and wait for the pack to pick you up. But yeah, he's remembered for that. But he's also, a quality runner. And he'll be looking to break 2:10 today as well.
Well, I think that both the CJ Albertson, he's the other American in the field, and Ian Butler, they've got best times around 2:10. So probably that's what they're aiming for. Again, on the right of the screen, the two leading women, Amane Beriso, running right alongside Letesenbet Gidey.
She looks good at the moment, doesn't Beriso? She's gone out with intent, and that's interesting. She's not running behind, Letesenbet. She's running on her shoulder. There is some psychology there, isn't it? How much do they know each other, those two? And is there any kind of rivalry there?
I think there's probably more encouragement than rivalry. I mean, obviously they're not in the same training group, but I think Amane Beriso will come into this race with a lot of confidence. She's in the same training group as Tigist Assefa, who ran that stunning time in Berlin just over 2 months ago. Ran 2:15:37, which is the third fastest time ever run by female athlete. So Amane Beriso herself has got such a strong training group. So I don't think she'll be intimidated by Letesenbet.
But at 15 kilometres, she's running 2:15:09 pace. That's that's pretty phenomenal. So, but she must have had indications of training going into this.
Yeah, that's right. And as I say, I think because so many of these athletes are in large training groups, and they're seeing their training partners go off and achieve success and run fast times in other city marathons, it does breed confidence. And I think Amane Beriso is taking advantage of that today. And as we've pointed out, Letesenbet's opening, first 15 kilometres a little bit slower than we expected. Still very fast, as you say, 2:15 pace.
A little bit slow, but not surprising given the fact that, they like, obviously, to continue with a faster pace as it goes. And the other thing with, the women's elite field, that those paces will go the whole distance, won't they? Whereas, obviously, with the men's race, because they're on the limit, that, as you talked about, those paces have an incentive maybe to get to 31 kilometres to get the bus back. But for the women, as we saw in the days of Paula's phenomenal records, Paula Radcliffe, that she had pacemakers literally until the home straight and the mile.
Yeah. I mean, it is a very... it's an amazing thought to think that Letesenbet has only run 2 road races in the last 3 years. She ran the world best for 15K in Nijmegen in November 2019. And then she broke the world record for the half marathon here in Valencia 14 months ago in October 2021. So both of those were world records, or if you want to say world best for 15K. In addition to that, she's broken world records on the track, 5,000 metres and 10,000 metres.
The 5 kilometres here in Valencia as well, wasn't it? So that 14:06, phenomenal running, getting close to 14 minutes.
Yeah. So, I mean, quite unusual, really, for a one of the world's, well, we're going to call her one of the world's top marathon runners. I mean, this is her debut marathon. But to come into this race with, in a way, so little experience of road racing at the highest level, and yet so much is being talked about her achieving big things and rewriting the record books today. Whether she can do that, we'll have to wait and see, but obviously she's set off well, and as we've been saying repeatedly, set off quite conservatively, and I think, as you've been pointing out, James, that's largely because of the advice that she's been given by her coach. I think this record has been in the planning for, I would say, quite a few years. Just hearing Hailu Yasu talk about Lettersenbet, I mean, I think they first targeted records on the track at 5,000 and 10,000. Then they targeted the world half marathon record last year. But even when she was running here in Valencia, they were thinking what she could run at the marathon. And only 24, you would assume she's got many years ahead of her. But she's today attempting not only her first marathon, but she's attempting to run the world's fastest marathon in her first marathon.
So a lot of runners at home obviously getting up before you go out for your long Sunday runs or your short Sunday run, or you might be jumping on the treadmill. If you saw that little capture at the bottom of the screen there, 18.7 kilometers is the speed they're traveling at the moment. So not saying you do that, but you know, if you were to put your treadmill up to 18.7 and you were anticipating staying on there for the best part of 2 hours, that gives, you know, puts it in perspective of how, you know, relaxed these runners look at the pace they're running. It's pretty phenomenal, Richard, isn't it?
It is, and I think what's striking is that we've been commenting on how large this group. This is right at the front of the race, and that group is still together. I don't think we've seen any of the leading men yet drop off. I mean, we're still in the first half of the race, so in a way we would expect the damage to be done and the athletes to be dropping back in the latter stages of the race, but they're all still behind those three pacemakers. What I find a little bit puzzling, James, can you help me with this one, is why the race vehicle with the clock on is behind the runners and not in front of them. And I also know that that's an electric car, so it's not spewing out any fumes, but I think
could be two, Richard. I think there might be one in front as well.
Okay.
But,
so the car behind is for the benefit of us and those viewing, so we can actually see how fast they're running.
I might be wrong, though. I might be wrong.
So I'm assuming, James, that they are actually through halfway point, because they were targeting a time of around 61.5 minutes.
Yeah, we haven't had the caption come up yet, have we, on the screen? But yeah, we are pretty sure that they've gone through that halfway mark, and that group is starting to drop off now. So we have lost just a couple of runners over the last couple of kilometres, which was expected at the pace they're running at. But still, the athletes that we said were going to be starting as the favourites, those that have the experience here. The world champion there, Tolle, you can see right in the centre, rightfully wearing that #1 bib. He doesn't look like there's a bead of sweat on his forehead.
Yes, the Tanzanian at the back of the field, back of that group, sorry, Gabriel Gaye. So, yeah, there's the halfway. Well, it's saying...
No, I think it's definitely not sub
no.
59 minutes. I think that could, be maybe the 20-kilometre split
right.
potentially there, Richard, I think.
Yeah, thanks for helping me with that one. I was just pointing out the Tanzanian who's actually dropped to the back of the group, Gabriel Gaye, got a best time of 2:04.55 and was looking quite comfortable over the first 10 kilometres. He's now at the back of the group.
He was quite aggressive, wasn't he, in the opening exchanges, which you don't really need to be in the marathon, so keep your powder dry, get through those first few kilometres, almost be unknown, be unseen, which some of the athletes have done a good job of that. You can see the white with the orange shorts of the NN athletes that are in that group, and obviously the paces at the front in those kind of orangey, yellowy. I'm looking for the best word to describe those Pacers vests, Richard. What would you give them?
Well, I think they're distinctive, and I think that's important. So that as well as their bibs, which indicate the job
not the Chassis Barnet colours that Dave Bedford used to have out of his club in the London Marathon. That always used to make me chuckle.
Yes, I'm not sure whether the race organisers will have looked carefully at what the sponsors are kitting out their athletes in before deciding what kit to give to the Pacers, but at least we can see in both the men's and women's races that those three runners at the front are there to do a job, and we will expect them to be leading that group for hopefully another 5-10 kilometres and taking the athletes into that final quarter of the race. So they're now just turning away from the port down a very, very long avenue called Avenue de la Porte. This is, I think, the longest straight road on the entire route. And I mean, thankfully today, the conditions are very good. I think, James, you were here last year when there were very strong winds, and that did really slow the times considerably.
Yeah, it was very breezy last year, and then for the half marathon, the conditions, it warmed up. It was probably too warm on the day for absolute record performances. But I think today is almost. I don't think you can have perfect conditions, but it's not far off that.
So on the right screen, that's the Julian Vanders group. And we can probably expect to see also in that group is the leading Spanish runner, Ayed Lamderson. So they're targeting a time of around 2:06.25. So they're also through halfway, and they're about to turn to the right onto the long Avenue de la Porte, away from the port and the beach area.
I mean, if you're watching this at home, you can hear the noise and you can hear the enthusiasm on the streets. I mean, it's a beautiful coastal town, this beautiful port, southeastern part of Spain, easy to get to. So in terms of flights in and around Europe, and it's a bucket list race, I really do think, for all abilities. Obviously the elites put it on there because they're chasing times, but a lot of the masses, it's a nice place. I was in a pair of shorts last night, Richard, having gone from our fairly cold weather in the UK. So and it is really nice, for beautiful park, isn't it? So they dried out the riverbed especially for runners, didn't they?
It's a beautiful place. It's a mix of old and new. As you say, it's on the coast, but I was also reading it's in the top 10 cities in the world for most desirable places to live, and I think it deservedly has, a very, very good reputation. Spain's third largest city, but
home of paella as well. It had me at that, and also the biggest market town in Europe. So what more could you want?
And also, if you're a sports fan, I mean, we're talking about marathon running today, but it's got Villarreal,
yep,
a very famous football team owned by one of the Roig Alfonso brothers, whose family is behind this race. A very famous basketball team, again, that is supported by the Roig Alfonso family. So it's a city of sport. It's also a city of culture. And
well, last night they were talking about the equestrian that's taken place where we are here at the finish line, and also the APT tennis tour.
Yep.
Where the water that's in front of us, that obviously it's an iconic finish, isn't it, at the Hemispheric, but they take out the water and they have concerts in this summer as well. So it's an amazing venue, and you've got the IMAX cinema. You've got the aquarium. There is literally so much going on here.
And I think if you speak to anyone from Valencia, the one thing they would tell you about is the festival, the annual festival that takes place here in March, the Fallas de Valencia, which is like it happens over a week, and it's like a torch burning festival, really, and it's in the UNESCO list of great festivals that happen around the world. And the interesting thing about the fires is that the race organisers here have made a collaboration with all the different neighbourhood groups that contribute towards the annual festival in March, and they've turned those neighbourhood groups into the cheerleading groups that are around the course. So that's one reason why we're seeing so many spectators out on the course and so much noise out on the course. But let's go back to what's actually happening out on the streets with the elite athletes. Tamrat Tola, he's the one who's right on the shoulder of the pacemakers. Alongside him, Gaetani Molla.
It's the Tola and Molla show at the moment, isn't it? So, they're happy with the paces, you know, to go as long as possible. It's almost to not be overly aggressive at the moment because, you know, if those paces can get them to that 31 kilometres or over 30 kilometres, then the race really starts. Yes,
it's slightly unusual, I would say, that Tamrat Tola, if you look at him, he's almost running alongside the pacemakers, looking at the pacemakers as though to say, can't you go any faster? Now, that in some ways is not the style of running that we would associate with him. Tamrat Tola, as we commented about the way he won his World Championship title in Oregon in July, was by waiting and waiting until the final 10 kilometres and then putting his foot on the pedal. And I think, you know, that's what we would expect. I think that's what a lot of his training is being geared around, those progression runs over 15, 25 and 30k, where the final 5, 10k is run very fast. But I think today we're seeing, of all the runners who are not pacing in that group, he's the one who is almost pushing for the pace to be even faster. Let's just go through some of the other runners there. As you say, Chalu Desa, second here last year, number 7. He's a training partner of Milkeza Mengesha, who's running immediately to his right. So they're both coached by Haji Ajilo, also train in Salta. Number 4, Dawid Walde, a 2:04 marathon runner. Also, James, you'll be pleased to hear, a track runner. I think you probably knew.
He's a world indoor 5th place finalist as well. So, you know, that's sub quality as well.
So, any 1500 metre runners watching this race, particularly if you're in your 20s, early 20s, don't think that this is beyond you.
I was going to say, don't do it. Stay with the mile, stay with the 1500, but no, they've done it. It's a couple, as we said, there's a pacer out there that's doing it successfully. Also, I think it's Kelvin Kiptum on the right-hand side of the screen as well, wearing the blue, wearing number 14. So the Kenyan athlete. So again, he's run very well. Sub 59 minutes for a half marathon multiple times, and the noise again on the screen as that's a 10, but almost waves to the crowd then. But going back to the pacing strategy and looking at that halfway split, when we compare what happened in Chicago with Ruth Chepngetich is 65.44 at halfway, and then obviously missing that world record by, you know, just a handful of seconds. Do you think that plays into athletes that have seen what happens when you do overcook it, and so obviously playing it a little bit safer? Because that was some bold running that was in Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. I think different runners take different approaches, and we've seen that over the years. I mean, some people like to think you get money in the bank by running faster in the first half, and then you just hang on in the second half. But I think what the history books have shown and what the world's best have shown, particularly in recent years, is that you either run level pace, or even better than that, you finish fast. Certainly when it comes to championship races, I mean, that is the skill that you've got to perfect. When it comes to big city marathon races, it is largely about level pacing. But I think the way we're watching Letesenbet today, I think we're expecting her to pick up the pace, because they have started cautiously. And obviously one sign of that is that she's not the only woman in this leading women's group, in that she's still got company from Amane Beriso, her compatriot, who is also looking very good.
Next split we'll get 25 kilometres. I don't think we've had a halfway split flash up, but the split from 15 to 20 kilometres was the fastest of the race so far, 15:47. So you know, that really does, you know, that split itself is 2:13 pace.
Yep.
But obviously we know that she needs to pull back where what she didn't have in that first 5 kilometres. But it does show that it's getting subtly quicker.
Yep.
And again, it'd be interesting to see what that 25 kilometre split is.
Yeah. And you know, let's not forget, you know, how fast Letsemba has run over 5K, 14:06. She ran when she took 4.5 seconds off Turunesh Dibaba's world record 2 years ago. So she's a very, very fast track runner. And yes, I think, James, you're right. We can expect to see her pick up the pace. Well, there's been a very significant development in the men's race, in that now there's only one pacer still in the race. And also that leading group is starting to split.
Korea and Karui and Tadesse.
Walkene Tadesse is...
Oh, he's having issues, isn't he? He's gone from being right in that pack to almost going to a standstill within 400 metres.
Yeah, I watched him a couple of months ago in Amsterdam. He was doing the pacemaking there as part of his preparation for the marathon, and it looks as though he's just about to drop out, really, I think. And that's what the marathon does to you. You can be feeling good 1 minute, and then you're completely out of energy and fuel and the will to continue. And right at the top of your screen, I think we're seeing the end of the race for Walkene Tadesse, but still a large group there. And it is interesting that Tamrat Tola, who I think you'd have to say is the favourite, and
oh, that's the last of the pacers gone. That's it, no more.
It. And that is
an hour and 16 of running, and now we are down to just the pure racers now.
And they've got more than 15 kilometres to go, so probably not quite the script that the race organisers were wanting. Often, if the pacers can go at least to 30k, then that just gives more help to the elite runners. So now we're just left with the leading contenders, led by the race favourite Tamrat Tola, the world champion from Oregon, running today his 14th marathon. You'd have to say he's at the prime of his career.
It is, but interesting to see him on the front as well.
Yep.
As we go back to the second group. Lando Simon is the athlete nearest us there on that side-on view. They've just gone through their drink station. So again, they've still got their 3 pacers, so they're still in full contingent of the 3 that started this group's pacing at the moment. They're still there. So that's fascinating, again, going back to the front group, because, you know, that's why you employ 3 pacers, is to hopefully have at least one to go to that 30 kilometres. But, you know, as we said earlier, the pace was getting aggressive. Obviously, you know, the Tola was almost trying to ask them a bit earlier on to pick the pace up. So, and they didn't seem to respond, and or maybe they did respond in that kilometre, and that was enough. And you can see 26 kilometres for the chase group behind number 20. That's Ronald Correa there, 2:07 lifetime best. As a little check of the watch as well, as they get a little bit of feedback and a little bit of personal splits, I think, as they go through, because they won't have a lead car with a clock in front of them.
Well, it is interesting what's happening now, because Tamrat Tola is in a position he probably wouldn't have wanted to be in, not only leading the race, but leading the race with no pacemakers in front of him. And so he's the one who's setting the pace, and I think Tamrat himself is very keen to obviously set a personal best himself, but also to have an attack on the course record of 2:03.00. So he's here to win today, but he's also got his eye on the clock, and I think that goes back to a conversation I had with his coach yesterday, where he was saying that they were wanting an even faster pace. So we know that Toller's in good shape, but this is a much harder ask for him to lead this very strong group of about 12 athletes. Right behind him, one of the debutants, number 15, Milkesa Mengesha, running his debut marathon here, and alongside him, training partner Chalu Deso, number 7. And
looks actually Masanga looks good, doesn't he? The 24-year-old, sorry, 22-year-old. You know, he's a sub 13-minute 5K athlete on the track, and you know, won the Copenhagen half marathon inside 59 minutes as well. So he's definitely someone, and he's been prominent in the early stage as well. And at the age of only 22, this is could be the start of a big marathon career.
Yeah, I think, you know, he's a winner. I mean, you said, James, he won the Copenhagen Marathon in September. He won the Houston Half Marathon in January. He's a world junior cross-country champion. And, you know, you don't win those races unless you are not only very strong, but you're very tough mentally. And it's going to be very interesting to see how he fares over the next 15 kilometres in his first marathon. But again, speaking to his coach, Haji Agilo, who's coached many of the world's top marathon runners, including the women's world champion, Goitum Gebrselassie. He's got very good, very high hopes for Mengesha.
Yeah, big talent. Ran 13:02 a couple of times in the summer as well. So still, you know, very much was track-based this summer. And yeah, stepping up distances very successfully. Tamrat Toller himself, an Olympic bronze medalist from 2016, over 10,000 meters, and a world half marathon silver medalist from my town of Cardiff. So on a strange weather day where there was a mini typhoon that hit, so anyone that ran that day, but Sir Mo Farah also making the podium that day. So Toller at the front, as we said, we expected him to be someone to push the latter stages on. They've still got the best part of 40 minutes of running, and so for him to be at the front, he must be feeling good. He did look good early on, but you can see almost the pace continuing to increase, or at least maintain, and on that we almost see an athlete drop off every few kilometres.
Well, as I was mentioning, James, a few weeks ago when I was in Ethiopia and watching Toller train, I think what was striking was just how strong his training group is. I mean, he trains in a group with Sise Lema, who won the London Marathon last year, Lemi Bahanu. Also in that group is Amdwalan Amdawork, who had that race with Kipchoge in Berlin. Mukta Idris, former world champion over 5,000 meters from 2017-2019, is also in that group. Herpasa Nagasa. It's an incredibly strong group, and Tamrat is right at the front of that group. I mean, I watched them do a session of 10 by 1,200 meters, and the pace at which they were running was quite phenomenal. So at 28 kilometers, the runners are going past the medieval tower of Torres de Serranos. And this part of the course, as you can see from the panoramic shot, is going to bring them into the old part of the city. The Serrano Tower, or the Torres de Serranos, was part of the old city walls of the medieval town.
It's part of the old entrance, wasn't it? Yep. So, yeah, going back, wasn't it? Was it 1392? So there's real history, as we said. We almost forget that where we're sat, aren't we, in this, said this futuristic finish line. But beautiful history wrapped around the streets of Valencia.
And interestingly, they've taken their drink at a drink station which is positioned a little bit before 30 kilometers, because the 30 kilometers point, as we'll see over the next couple of kilometers, comes in the old part of the city, which is probably the most twisty part of the course. So they're going to have a few left and rights as they go into the old part of the city, past the market area and the city council building, and the race organisers very deliberately, I think, positioning that last drink station on one of the wide avenues before they enter into the old city.
Yeah, that's smart, just being obviously mindful that the runners can take on board. So important now in these stages of the race to get the bottle, definitely physically, but also mentally as they go through that 29-kilometre mark. So, as you said, we're heading towards the town hall, and they'll be getting great support. As we've heard, I don't think there's been a quiet place on the course at the moment. So there's been noise pretty much throughout every kilometre. See 11 degrees there on that sign there, so the temperature hasn't risen. The time here is 9:40 Spanish time. So again, wherever you are joining us around Europe and the world, we hope you're enjoying the coverage here of the 2022 Valencia Trinidad Alfonso Marathon. And it is only almost just the beginning. It's almost been the warm-up act, isn't it, Richard? As we've got 1 hour and 25 minutes on the race clock, so we are hoping to see a bit of history on the right-hand side of the screen there as we chase that women's world record. And could we see the first sub-2:14 clocking? And then we've got a highly competitive men's race that we'd love to see the course record. Evans Chebet's 2:03.00. We'd love to see that broken, and if it does, it could well challenge, you know, Berlin obviously with that world record. Eliud Kipchoge's phenomenal 2:01.09, but London, I'm sure Spencer Barden's watching it, thinking that obviously the second fastest marathon in the world currently stands at 2:02.37. I'm sure Valencia will have half an eye on that.
Yeah, there's a lot of competition between the big city marathon races. Valencia now coming obviously right at the end of the calendar year. They've got a chance to put themselves very highly up the rankings on course records. And James, as you say, that's what they're chasing at a very minimum today. New course records in both men's and women's races. Letta Sembert, G'day, on the right of the screen, still looking very, very comfortable. She does have that such an easy running style, and I also have to say, Letta Sembert, she carries herself, I think, with such maturity. I mean, just watching herself at the press conference on Friday and in the days leading up to the race, she's just been very relaxed, very open to talk to people, and yet with this massive challenge ahead of her, given all the talk about world records here today.
Yeah, she seems unfazed by it. You know, it's obviously, there's got to be a pressure there, hasn't there? As I think that's the another beautiful part of the scene here, Richard.
Yep, that's the Ayuntamiento, which is the city council building, right in the heart of the old city. Beautiful views of medieval Valencia, Plaza del Ayuntamiento, which is the city council building, and that's where the market area is. And this is, you can see now, there are some significant developments in the men's race, and they're being brought about by the race favourite Tamrat Tola, who is starting to put his foot down, and there's 4 athletes really getting away. The Tanzanian Gay, who ran in the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham in August, he's one of the athletes who is chasing, and it's I think it's Chalu Desa, the Ethiopian who was second here last year. He's the first of those 4 athletes who seems to be struggling. So Tamrat Tola, quite early on in the race, they're just past 30 kilometres, and still a lot of running left, but it's Tola who is really splitting them up. If you remember, just 10 minutes ago, that group was a group of 10 or 12 runners. Well, it's now down to 3. There's one of the cheer zones, and Tola has decided enough's enough.
Yeah, 29 kilometres, we think they were just outside 2:03 pace, so about 2:03.19 pace with it picking up. So that means they are right on there or thereabout course record pace. And given the fact that the pace looks like it's picking up, you know, Tola was definitely asking the questions there. But interesting, as you say, Gabriel Gay there, he was one of the early aggressors, and then he didn't look so good for a couple of kilometres, and that can happen in a marathon, can't it? You could go through a little bit of a bad patch. Doesn't mean you fall off the cliff, does it? You can just sometimes either have an issue with a drink station, or even, you know, getting a drink, or you know, just a little bit of through a stitch or something. So whatever bad patch he looked like he was having, he's definitely not having one right now, the Tanzanian.
Yep, and I think Tola will be relieved that he's no longer in the lead, so to speak. It's the Kenyan Kiptum who's taken up the pace at the front of the race.
They are inside it at 30 kilometres. It has picked up.
It has picked up, and I think that's because actually of the pace at which Tola has run the last 5 kilometres, rather than any of the pacemakers. We saw the pacemakers drop out at the 25 kilometre point, and it's since then that the pace has really picked up, and we can see the damage that has caused, with runners now spread out down the road. And it looks like it's these 3 runners who are edging clear of the rest. We've got a Tanzanian, we've got a Kenyan, and we've got an Ethiopian.
Yeah, so as I said, they were, as you can see, the bottom left-hand graphic, they were just outside that record pace, course record pace at 25 kilometres. But as we were visually watching it, you could see the pace had increased just by, you know, the fact we went from 19 athletes at halfway in that lead group down to just 3 at 30 kilometres. So, but it's the Kenyan at the moment looking good. Number 14, that's Kelvin Kiptum. As I said, he's only 23. And, you know, he's used to the streets of Valencia. He has done the half marathon here. He was 8th a year ago. And, you know, it's his debut. So, again, to be pushing the pace in your debut, we have seen that happen before, and people have got a little bit sort of carried away. But he's almost asking them, he's chatting with them, Richard. Look at that. He's almost saying, keep going, let's keep this going. Or is this enough? I don't know. That's fascinating.
It often happens like that, doesn't it? In the marathon, when you run your debut, you don't know what the pain's like, but you go in fearless. And it looks like, to a certain extent, Kiptum is experiencing that. Whether he can feel the same in 20 minutes' time is another question, because he's got on his shoulder 2 experienced runners. Tamrat Tola running his 14th marathon here today, 3 wins behind him from Oregon, Dubai and Amsterdam. And the Tanzanian number 8, Gabriel Gay, he was 7th in that World Championship race in Oregon, won by Tola in July. So Gay and Tola know each other, but neither of them probably would have expected to be running behind a debutant, the Kenyan Kiptum, as they go into the final 10 kilometres.
Yeah, these are 3 strong athletes. As I said, we've got 2 with you know, strong pedigrees in the marathon, and 1 fresh-faced Kenyan in the centre. So it's Ethiopia versus Kenya versus Tanzania at the moment. Whether anyone can bridge that gap, because what you can have is 3 athletes almost taking chunks out of each other, and they have done over the last few kilometres. And if they keep doing that, but I can't see, with the strength of these 3 right now, the winner not coming from one of these on the screen.
Yeah, they're all looking good. Still a long way to run. Tamrat Tola, who did the leading between 25k and 30k, has now settled back. Assuming that he's still feeling good, I think he'll be pleased that it's the Kenyan who's setting the pace, because there they are through 20 miles, that's 32 kilometres, and that means they're into the final 10 kilometres there or thereabouts, and they're actually leaving the old part of the city, and they're going to the quieter parts, the western district of town. And look at that conversation from Kelvin Kiptum. He's saying, come on, you guys, you know what the marathon's about. But at the moment, it's the Tanzanian and Ethiopian in the form of Gay and Tola who are just sitting and letting the Kenyan do the work.
So just 10 kilometers of running. So good friend of ours, Steve Jones, used to say it was a 20-mile run followed by a 10K race. So they've done more than just a 20-mile run thus far. So I've got them inside. Yeah, they are operating inside that 2:03 pace. And when you look at, you know, Mola had the fastest debut from Dubai, wasn't it? 2:03.34, I think it was. So at the moment, Kelvin Kiptum is heading towards, we've never seen someone debut inside 2:03. So this could be something special. And obviously, not just debut, he's got a chance of winning it as he now attacks the race.
And I think the other debutant that we were expecting, on the right of your screen, Alexander Mutiso, he's the chasing group. And, well, this is a real surprise.
Wow.
Because Tola
has gone, isn't it, at the moment?
Just in the matter of a few meters is struggling now. Whether he can recover from that, the Kenyan urging on the Tanzanian. And this is really against the form book. You've got a debutant, Kelvin Kiptum, and he is putting significant distance between himself and the world champion at the marathon, Tamrat Tola, who is really struggling. Just in this last kilometre, he's opened up 20 meters, and the Tanzanian is trying to stay with him, but it's the Kenyan who's now got 5 or 6 meters over Gabriel Gay. So whether Tola, it looks like Tola's wheels have come off.
They have. Kiptum's lifetime best of the half marathon, you know, came here in Valencia. So again, he has been kind of blooded into the culture here, the running of things, how they do things. But at the moment, if you look, you know, look at his kind of record, this is something way out there right now. So, and even recent race results. So, and it's fearless bit of running in the latter stages. You would have thought maybe he would have just held on. You can see the blue line they're following, which is the marathon course that's been laid out. But Tola there, we expected him. He maybe was so far more aggressive than he has been in the earlier stages. Usually this is him on the screen right now, but it's Kelvin Kiptum that's turning the screw at the moment, wearing 14, and he looks good, doesn't he?
He does look very good, and I think he described him as fearless, and that's exactly how he looks on the screen. Just glance behind him to see what the gap was back to Gay, but he's still looking very good. This is Tola in 3rd place, trying to recover. We saw him just drop his arms, but the gap is, I think, slightly increasing as Kiptum.
Amazing, he hasn't raced this year. His only race was in the RAC half marathon, where he didn't finish. So there on the screen, there we go, look at that, 30 kilometers. We are now 5 seconds inside world record pace. The tables are being turned subtly in this race, but what is amazing, we've got 2 athletes inside world record pace at 30 kilometers.
And I think that Letesembet Gide is aware of that she's got her compatriot Amane Beriso right on her shoulder, as she's been for all the race. But look at that, those
wow.
splits. So
that's how you chip away at a bit of time. It's been done gradually, 5 kilometers by 5 kilometers. Look at that, 67.18. That was the halfway split. So obviously, you know, doubling that would put them just outside world record. But the last 10 kilometers has pulled it back inside, and 5 seconds. That's going to be fascinating. See, I think that's the British athlete Adam Craig. He's making his marathon debut on the left-hand side, part of the New Balance Manchester crew. Helen Clitheroe doing a great job there. Kieran McGinn's phenomenal season. And that's the quality of athletes that are being shown. Look at that, and on the screen, and the gap back to the chasers behind, and they're still running at a very fast pace, those three athletes.
Well, if Gide and Beriso are running at sub 2:14 pace, so Sheila Chipkarui, the Kenyan, 2.5 minutes down, or she's running her marathon debut, so she's going to be well under 2:20, if not faster. But look at this, Kelvin Kiptum, the 23-year-old, running in his debut marathon here in Valencia, is going further away from the Tanzanian and Tola. So those gaps, they do look to be getting bigger into the last 25 minutes, you'd say, of the race. Kiptum's still looking very strong, and the gaps now, I would say, between Kiptum and Gay up to about 100 meters.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal to see, you know, such a young talent. Has been fascinating to see over the last 5 kilometers. Tola, the first time he's almost, you can see his body language has changed from being, you know, the aggressor, so positive. I mean, he's still running around about personal best pace, or it is personal best pace for him at the moment. So, again, for him to tough this out, because obviously their contracts, you know, there'll be time-based contracts within his you know, his aims as well, and obviously being in the top 3, it's all interlinked, isn't it, into his contract to be at the race as well.
Yeah, I think it's a very tough part of the race for him, because he knows that it's going to be very, very hard for him to claw back now any of those, that gap back to the leader. He's just got to keep his head down, keep his focus. As you say, you know, he'll want to at least salvage a good time and hopefully a podium finish from this race. But I think he came into the race with such high expectations off the back of his victory in Oregon at the World Championships. So to find himself in this position in the final section of the race is very, very tough. But he can still see the leader of the race about, I'd say that's about 200 meters down the tarmac. But at the moment, his eyes are going to be on the Tanzanian in second place, see whether he can reel back the Tanzanian. But meanwhile, at the front of the race, Kelvin Kiptum is still looking very, very strong.
He is. There's probably just a bit of pain now on his face. I just notice it just subtly change, and look, almost on cue. It's that almost unwritten law of don't look behind, and almost his whole body turned around then to look behind. So maybe that tells you that the little bit of you know, exuberance that went through himself over the last couple of kilometers, maybe he's regretting that just slightly.
This is the second-placed athlete, Gabriel Gay, having to work very, very hard to stay in contact with the Kenyan, just behind the car. 22 kilometers an hour, and I think when we get the next 5K split, we'll see just how fast Kiptum has run. This is first race of, or the first race he's finished, I think.
Yeah, of this year. So he's got around about 20 minutes of running. So, you know, the amount of, you know, hard training sessions that would have been replicating this. But as you said, you know, some marathon runners will run the full distance in training, obviously not anywhere near this intensity. But for some, they won't. So this does, you know, get to the unknown. You know, there are, you know, programs that, you know, get athletes to 24 miles, 23 miles. And at the pace he's been running at, this is where also, has he got his fueling, you know, bang on? And yeah, as I said, you know, was that pickup in pace? Because even a subtle pickup, a couple of seconds in a kilometre, it can feel good at that time. But we've also seen it go the other way as well.
Well, I think he is still going away from second-placed Gay from Tanzania, still looking very good into the last 6 kilometers of the race as they head back towards the city centre. This is the second-placed athlete. Ran in the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham in August.
Yeah, that was a tough course that day in Birmingham. The course took no prisoners. And look at the numbers. It's still, look at a big group there. And the fact that we've got 2 inside world record pace. Beriso there has just looks so good throughout. You know, when you go in with a 2:20 lifetime best and you then go out and operate at world record pace, it's, you know, slightly different when it's your debut and you're, you know, you come in from, you know, the world record over the half marathon distance, you know, world records over 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, you know, world best over 15 kilometers. We almost expected it of December, but you know, I'm super impressed the fact that we've got 2 inside world record pace into the last 10 kilometers, and they're 35 kilometers. Wow, look at that. 44 seconds inside course record. He's got a shout of going inside 2 hours and 2. Wow.
Quite amazing running by Kelvin Kiptum in his marathon debut, only 23 years old. Well, James, we've seen some amazing marathon debuts this year, particularly on the women's side. We saw the fastest ever debut marathon by a female athlete in Hamburg. Yalamzov won Hamburg in 2:17:23, and then Alma Zayana won in her debut in Amsterdam in 2:17:20. And now, here in Valencia, we are seeing, I think, what's going to be the world's fastest debut by a male athlete. If he can keep going.
Well, it's going to be one of the fastest of all time, isn't it? So, you know, when you start looking at those all-time lists, you know, Richard, look at it. You know, he's going to get close to probably the 3rd fastest time that we've ever seen someone. And I tell you what, the gap behind between the other athletes, they're both probably operated inside 2 hours and 3 as well.
Yes, I think we can see 3 athletes now behind Kiptum further down the tarmac. There's the Tanzanian in second. On the right screen there, you can see Tola. Still, as you say, James, operating at a very, very fast pace, but I think he's been chased down by another Kenyan. I think that was Alexander Mutiso. So
we've got 9 women inside 2:18 pace at 30 kilometers. I mean, that is some depth, isn't it? Some depth. So, you know, we're getting spoiled by 2 that are inside world record pace. But actually, the chasers behind, you know, you mentioned 3 of them earlier, but there's also, you know, there's a huge depth of runners inside that, you know, phenomenal 2:18. I mean, yeah, I think we're being spoiled by marathon times. They haven't finished it yet, but, well, we're seeing history, and we might not just see history of those that cross the line in first, but in terms of depth as well. You know, we could see some record and averages smashed out of the park here today.
Well, Kiptum at the front of the race is still looking good, although I have to say his arm carriage is a little bit higher than it was a few minutes ago. So through 35 kilometers with a 44-second cushion.
Wow.
On the course record. So well inside the
14 flat for that 5 kilometers from 30 to 35. I mean, you know, 14 minutes for 5 kilometers. So yeah, that is breathtaking.
That's where the damage was done.
But even, you know, Gay's run, you know, 14:15, and Tola's ran 14:28, which is still super fast running. That's way inside course record pace. But, you know, the fact that he's taken that amount of time out of the world champion, you know, 30 seconds is almost the best part of 200 meters in the last 3 miles. Tola must be thinking, what's happened?
What's happened? I think that's exactly right, James, that this young Kenyan has completely stunned the favourites here today.
But he's going to look at his watch and realise I'm picking the pace up. But the gap is getting wider and wider. Phenomenal.
I think the thing is that he's probably not wearing a watch. I don't think he is, and I don't think he's looking at his watch. He probably doesn't quite realise.
I would love to know what's going through his head right now. You know, I know it's probably just every kilometre, every mile, but I wonder whether he has any concept of how fast he's running. I bet the man on the right-hand side does, Richard. I mean, 41 years of age, so experienced.
So that's Ayad Lamderson, the leading Spanish athlete, aiming for a new Spanish record here today. Trying to go even faster than he ran himself in Seville just 9 months ago. There's Kiptum. I think this is one of the last water stations that he'll have before he comes into the final stretch. He's heading back towards the city centre, towards the city station. On the right of the screen there, the leading women.
Fascinating when you look at Beriso. She won the Mexico City Marathon in August in 2:25. So obviously you could do a bit of an altitude conversion on that. So, you know, anyone that's been to Mexico City, you know, it's like breathing through a straw. But, yeah, but, she, you know, to be 31, and she is making huge strides here. So whether that was a training run, whether that was an altitude run, but at the moment, this is the biggest race of her life. And again, when you look at her, Richard, she still looks really good. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be any stress there. I mean, no one looks any more relaxed than December. I mean, she looks the best of the best, doesn't she? But, I mean, that is, I mean, we're an hour and 50 in. We are coming to the business end. And said, the fact that two athletes look as good as they do, this is mind-blowing.
Yeah, Amane Beriso, coached by Gemadu, who will have seen his leading male athlete, Tamrat Tola, slip back from the lead in the men's race. But meanwhile, in the women's race, Amane Beriso really stepping up and running right alongside Gidey. As you say, James, Gidey looking very, very comfortable. There is a difference there in the running action between the track runner turned road runner in Gidey and the out-and-out road runner of Beriso. Meanwhile, it's Kiptum.
Another out-and-out road runner right now. And I tell you what, if you didn't know his name when you woke up this morning, you will do when you go to bed, because he's a few kilometres from landing an absolute monster run. We're anticipating right now that he could go inside 2 hours and 2 minutes, and he's got 10 minutes of running to do that, Richard.
Yeah, and I think his gap has got bigger. There's no one in sight as he comes into those final 2 or 3 kilometres. Yep, he's still clear. Then, so the question really is, can he keep this pace going? Because he's really opened up the race in the last 10 kilometres. As you say, James, that split between 30 and 35 kilometres, 14 minutes. That's where all the damage was done, and he's maintained that pace. And he's now coming back towards, I think, what Valencia call their own Brandenburg Tour, the Porta de la Mar, which is the 40-kilometre point. Once he goes under that archway, he'll see straight in front of him.
And that's the station, is it? That's the North Station. I pulled up there yesterday, and you can see the bull ring there as well.
Yeah.
Built in, or between 1798 and 1859. Holds 12,000 seats, and there's more than 12,000 people on the streets right now, probably in that section, cheering on Kelvin Kiptum. But beautiful station there. And again, you know, I can't stress enough, if you haven't been to Valencia, you've loved it thus far, Richard, haven't you? Then do get here.
Yep, do get here, and I have to also say that train travel in Spain is very, very good. Connections from here to Alicante and to Madrid are very good. But let's follow the action now. There's the second place Tanzanian going past the bull ring.
Well, he's heading for a big national record. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Yep.
You know, that when obviously, you know, it won't be an Ethiopian national record, but you know, that could be the first of our national records to be broken today. That would be phenomenal, because we said we had the potential for 10 or thereabouts, but yeah, that could be a massive Tanzanian national record.
Yes, I think alluding to the fact that Kiptum is unlikely to break the world record.
I can't quite see that happening, unless he just keeps getting faster and faster. But no, I think, you know,
I think the Kenyan record is safe. Kipchoge's world record of 2:1:09.
I think Kenenisa's is safe in relation to the Ethiopian record right now, but
yes,
yeah, I think the Tanzanian one's going to get smashed. But Kelvin Kiptum, is he now, if we're looking at this, if he lands this, is he now going to be the successor to Eliud? Because Eliud Kipchoge can't keep going for forever. I'd love him to. I'm sure Enin and everyone around him would love him to. Jos would love him to, but he can't go on for forever, surely not.
Well, I think the answer is no, he can't. The question
so is Kelvin the next?
Yes.
The next man to fill those shoes. He's definitely doing a great job right now.
So in the women's race, fascinating battle. Not what we expected. We expected Gidey to be out on her own.
Wow.
At this stage of the race, and I think for the first time, James, we're seeing Beriso just a few strides in front of Gidey. Gidey took her gloves off.
Oh, is that a sign? Who was the runner? Well, I think it was the great Kip Keino. For a few years, wore a cap, and he used to throw his cap off in a race when he was going to kick. So not saying that Gidey's going to kick now, but maybe the gloves are off. That old expression. And I wonder whether going out at a slow pace and obviously making sure that they got towards that world record was whether it might be a bit of a Sergei Bubka case of edging the world record down. Don't smash it out the park first race out, edge inside it. But again, I wonder whether mentally all the talk this week was about just one person going for the world record. It was never about a race. I mean, that's what we spoke about. It was almost like, you know, it was just, you know, can she break the world record? But right now, look at this on the screen. There's an athlete challenging her. I think that's phenomenal.
Well, not only challenging her, I think just in the last few minutes, if you just look at the look of concentration on Gidey's face, Amane Beriso has actually got a few meters on Gidey, which is a real upset. Now, whether I think that Gidey is in completely new territory. I mean, as we've said, this is her debut marathon.
Running it in training is different, isn't it? You might have covered the marathon distance, but never, you know, and the surface they run on in Ethiopia, obviously, you know, it's not going to sometimes be as hard. The concrete is unforgiving, isn't it? Even in super shoes.
Well, meanwhile, in the men's race, this is the final 2 kilometers. This is the part of the course they call the Tourmalet.
Wow, wow, look at that on the right-hand screen. And this is, I tell you what, this would be one of the biggest shocks that I've seen for a long, long time. And because at the moment, that's a proper gap. That's a proper, you know, state of, I'm going for this. And, you know, there's no response at the moment from Ledesemba. That's phenomenal.
It is phenomenal. I am lost for words.
I am as well.
And one reason I'm lost for words is because a couple of months ago we were watching Tigist Assefa, who was a training partner of Amane Beriso, run that phenomenal time in Berlin when she won in a time of 2:15, and now we're seeing her training partner not only run very fast, but run away from one of the world's greatest distance runners, Ledesemba Gidey. So
even in that first 5 kilometres when Beriso was there, I thought she's got, you know, because it wasn't that aggressive, was it, that first 5 kilometres? So she almost should be there. And then the next 5 kilometres thinking, well, you know, she's kind of like hanging in there, okay, but she has looked so good throughout. And that gap is now probably the best part of 50
metres, you're absolutely right. And it's interesting, isn't it, that Ledesemba's training partner has stayed back with Gidey. Obviously,
yes. The pacers stay back there. Yeah, absolutely.
Very much well aware that Gidey is struggling at the pace that is being set by Beriso. So whether Gidey can recover, I mean, I think Gidey is still on target to run the world's.
Oh, she's still gonna
fastest by a debutant.
At the moment, she's going to go inside the world record and get beaten. So all that planning again. You know, the planning about making sure that, you know, you finish your first marathon strong, you break the world record, but you're not first across the line. Amazing. So it's the 31-year-old on the screen there, Beriso, wearing 2:06. And again, I love these side-on shots because it shows how economical these runners are. You know, huge amount of mileage. I mean, Gidey goes over 115 miles a week, and you know, I'm sure Kelvin Kiptum on the screen is doing likewise in training. But they won't do that in race week. They won't do that in a few weeks before. They do what the marathon runners know out there is tapering for it. So bringing down the amount they're running, the intensity, and getting themselves ready for this big day. And I tell you what, it has been a huge day. And if we look at the race clock, we're coming up to almost 2 hours of running. So there's still the best part of 13, 14 minutes of running in the women's race.
Well, a significant look back there by Gidey.
It was,
as though she is really just trying to hang on. She's got two pacemakers immediately in front of her, and she knows now it's just a question of hanging on, whether she can pick it up, whether she's got anything left in her legs.
I think the psychological part of it now is the hard part, because, you know, I think that I almost saw it during the race, that she was so surprised to have someone there. 800 meters, so half a mile, and we've just coming up right now to 2 hours on the race clock. So he's going to be right there or thereabouts, going inside 2:02. He's going to be very, very close.
Phenomenal run by this 23-year-old Kenyan, Kelvin Kiptum. He's run here before in Valencia over the half marathon, but today he's stepped up into the unknown. It's his first marathon, and he's completely upset the form book.
4 seconds inside world record pace, so she has been maintained. That's really interesting. So we're not obliterating it, but we are right on world record pace. Look at that. So 30 kilometers.
But we're well beyond 30 kilometers. So
that's an old
stat. What we really
stat,
need to
isn't
see,
it? We need the updated one.
We
that
need to
threw
see
me then, Richard.
Yeah, she's coming back. She's not that far away.
We need
from
40
she's about 39 kilometers at the moment. Meanwhile, this is the men's race, and Kelvin Kiptum is into the final 400 meters onto the carpet inside the City of Arts and Sciences. What a run it's been for him. You can see the finish gantry in front of him.
What a run, Richard.
It's going to be a new course record. Remember the course record set here 2 years ago by compatriot Evans Chibet.
This is a phenomenal run. This is one of the fastest marathons of all time. It's a debut, and he's going to be inside 2 hours and 2 minutes. 23-year-old Kenyan. Look out for this name. It is here to last a few years. Kelvin Kiptum is the winner of the 2022 Trinidad Alfonso Valencia Marathon. Wow, what a run, Richard.
Absolutely staggering. I think he can hardly believe it himself. The second fastest time run this year at the marathon. Only Kipchoge's world record in Berlin 2 months ago is faster, and Kiptum wins by far the biggest victory in his career, and he's being followed home by Gabriel Gay, also running the fastest marathon in his career.
Huge Tanzanian national
all
record.
3 athletes now onto the finishing straight, and there's Tanzanian Gabriel Gede, and he's going to be almost 2 minutes inside his best time coming into this race with a 2:04.
Yeah, the current Tanzanian record, so he's going to improve it.
Best time of 2:04.55, so he's just, I think he's inside by almost 2 minutes. In third place, it's going to be Tola.
I think it was Tola, or whether, yes, it is Tola. Mola has also come onto the mat as well.
Well, quite amazingly, James, I think Tola's going to run a personal best.
Wow.
But disappointingly for him, it's not in first place. There's the winner. So that's Matissa finishing. Is that
Matissa.
So it's Matissa finishing in third.
That's a great debut.
So
I think that's the second fastest debut of all time. You've now got to run inside 2 hours and 2 to be the fastest debutant of all time.
Okay.
And
so
maybe I think Tola just ran out of gas at the end.
Faded in the final kilometre to finish fourth. So just outside his best time. So disappointing for Tola being commiserated by
he
his
may even have
coach.
been fifth as well. That was the quality of runners and depth as runners as well.
And there's Mike Keegan, Kaan Keegan at Osbelen running for Turkey now. He's going to be just outside his best, but a very good run for him. So all four athletes, the first four athletes under 2:04.
First European finisher home as well.
Yeah.
For the Turkish athlete, as you said, just outside his lifetime best at 2 hours 4 and 16. That was the European record.
And there's Chalo Desso, who was second here last year, sixth actually 2 years ago, so I think he's going to repeat that. There's number 5, fifth place finisher, Kaan Keegan, running for Turkey. He goes through in under 2 hours and 5 minutes.
Wow.
And there's the sixth place finisher from Ethiopia.
All inside 2 hours and 5 minutes. That is absolutely phenomenal depth.
And the Eritrean, Kiptum Kifle.
Yeah, Kifle.
But meanwhile, I think we need to switch back to the women's race.
Our jaws are on the floor from the depth of the men's race, and that debut by Kelvin Kiptum inside 2 hours and 2 minutes. But now, can we see a women's world record? It looks likely at the moment, Richard, doesn't it?
Well, exactly how fast she's going, it's hard to say. We're looking for a 40k split. It'll be in the next few minutes. There's the Eritrean finishing, Kiptum Kifle. But James, as you say, absolutely staggering times. The number of athletes that have finished in under 2 hours and 6 minutes. This race is going to break lots of records for lots of different reasons. But I think we've had one big story already in the men's race with the win of the debutant Kiptum. Now we're looking at Amane Beriso. She's a very well-known marathon runner, and there's the top Spanish athlete. I think he's just going to fail in his attempt to set a new Spanish record. Remember, his Spanish record set in Seville earlier this year, 2 hours 6 minutes and 25 seconds. So he's outside that, but just look at the depth of runners now.
Navarro of France has run very well. Yeah, Navarro, sorry, yes.
He's going to be the first Spaniard across the line. So trying to concentrate on two races at the same time. So yes, Labderson has faded just over the last final few kilometres. He's now onto the carpet within the city.
That's the pain of the marathon right there, isn't it, Richard? But and I tell you what, the joy right now of potentially going into the history books. And on the left-hand side, Beriso looks absolutely phenomenal right now.
Well, she is into, I was going to say, I think that she's into the final 2 kilometres.
Yes.
That is the Porta de la Mar. And I think as she turns this corner, we will see the 40-kilometre point. I think it comes just a few metres up this road. If that is the case, there's the 40-kilometre point, James. Can you see?
Yes.
So,
and the athlete went past her almost to say, come with me, come with me.
Assuming she's running at about 3:10 pace, which is, I think, the pace she's been running for the last 10 kilometres. She is,
wow,
very, very close to the course record. Remember, the world record. The world record set by Bridget Koskay in Chicago in 2019, 2 hours, 14 minutes and 4 seconds. Amane Beriso, for the first 3 quarters of the race, ran on the shoulder of the race favourite, Letesenbet Gidey. And over the last 10 kilometres, after taking the lead in the women's race, has just extended that lead.
She hasn't looked back, has she, Richard?
She hasn't looked back. She's just kept her own pace. For a few minutes, she was looking at her own watch, scarcely believing what she was doing, but now she is.
Well, I wonder, her support team must be going absolutely bonkers right now. And
her support team includes her coach, Gemadou De Geffer, who will have been disappointed at the performance of his leading male athlete, Tamrit Toller, came here with high expectations of winning his 4th marathon following his World Championship victory in Oregon earlier this summer. But Gemadou is going to be amply compensated by his leading female athlete. What a story this is. Amane Beriso came into the race with a personal best time of 2 hours 20:48.
Oh, that's literally gone. I mean,
that is gone by
a
6 or 7
margin.
minutes.
Huge margin. Oh, look at that. That's fascinating. So we're just outside world record pace. Oh, fascinating.
Oh, and the fact
that was obviously the 35 kilometers. So that's come up late on the screen there.
Yep.
So we literally are now watching someone that is very, very close. So it is going to be about the last 2 kilometers you said she's into, because that is an old caption on the bottom of the screen. So she's through 40 kilometers, way through 40 kilometers now. So that doesn't help us right now.
But I think the fact that she slowed, she came off that world record pace between 30 and 35, indicates that it's going to be a very big ask for her to break the women's world record at the marathon, but still looking very, very good.
Oh, it makes it fascinating into these last 3 minutes of running, and maybe just over that. So she's coming up to the last kilometre. And then, as we saw with Kelvin Kiptum, that 800-metre mark, that last half a mile is well documented. And that iconic finish here by the Hemispheric. Beautiful day here. It has warmed up over the last kind of half an hour. We've seen the temperature definitely rise, and you know, the runners will be feeling that slightly, and the masses definitely will as the day progresses. But 2 hours and 11, and the noise you can hear on the crowd side is towards an athlete that is within touching distance of the world record.
Well, I think Amane Beriso can hardly believe what she's achieved. A few minutes ago, she looked round just to check that she was well clear of Gide, which she is, and so she's running now down back towards the City of the Arts, where the finish line is. I'm sure she can see the hemisphere about a kilometre down the road.
Where's that 800 metre to go mark? That's so important now, isn't it?
There's Ayad Lamderson, the Spanish record holder at the marathon. Just failed today in his attempt to set a new Spanish record. It wasn't actually the first Spaniard across the line, but another very, very commendable performance, just being congratulated by Miguel Mostaza.
Congratulations, new race record. Can you believe it?
I can't believe, but I was really prepared. Yeah.
Third best record in the history.
Yes, of course, but by the grace of God, I did it. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So that was an interview with Kelvin Kiptum, the winner and the fastest debutant over the marathon distance of all time. But on the screen, Richard, the athlete looking over her shoulder. She doesn't need to. She's going to win this race. It's just a matter of how fast.
She is going to win it. It's going to be her third consecutive victory in the marathon. Won in Mexico City earlier this year, won in Mumbai 2 years ago. Came here. Not many people were talking about Amane Beriso, but after this race, there she is. The leading female athlete, Amane Beriso, who has upset the form books today in beating her more fancied compatriot, Letesenbet Gide. Here she is on the final stretch of carpet, which is going to bring her into the finish straight. She's just going to miss.
She's going to miss it. She's got 20 seconds. Oh, it's going to be oh so close, but you're right, Richard. She's going to be just outside.
I think she put in a very fast 5 kilometres up to 30 kilometres, and the last 10 kilometres, which is in effect where she's been on her own when she ran clear of Letesenbet Gidey, is where she has lost a little bit of pace, a little bit of time on that world record time. So Bridget Koskay's world record of 2:14 and 4 seconds is going to stay safe today. But this is the big story in the women's race. Amane Beriso of Ethiopia, coached by Gemadu Degafa, coming in to win the 42nd edition of the marathon here in Valencia in a new personal best time, beating her personal best by almost 6 minutes. Her personal best coming into this race, 2:20.48. She's going to go under 2 hours and 15 minutes, I think. What a win for Amane Beriso, 2 hours 14:58. Unofficially, the joy of winning her 9th marathon. What a race, what a win for Beriso against the form books, and here the more fancied world record holder at the half marathon today, running in her debut marathon.
So interesting, that's obviously a national record for Ethiopia. But we are going to see the fastest debut marathon of all time. That is going to be taken from the compatriots that have twice lowered that this year. But yeah, again, it wasn't written in the script. We didn't talk about it in the week. But there's your new course record holder, Beriso. What a run. Amane Beriso, take a bow.
Alongside Paco Borao, the AIMS president and race director here in Valencia, and one of the Roy Galfonso brothers, who is very much behind this race. Well, there's the look of pain and disappointment etched on the face of Letesenbet Gidey. We'll see her, I'm sure, come back and run even faster. But today, in her debut, she's going to set a record for the fastest ever debut run by a female athlete.
I think it's going to be the 6th fastest of all time as well as a debut. But again, I think that's a fascinating thing with the marathon. There is no absolute given. I mean, we almost did give it to her, and we almost thought it was just going to happen during the race. But, you know, it didn't go to plan, didn't go to script. But still, what a debut, sub 2:17. In her first marathon, amazing.
And you can see what it's taken out of her. I think those last 10 kilometers, those last 30 minutes of running were very, very hard. And look at that, Sheila Chipkarui.
Wow.
Finishing very, very strongly in 3rd place in the women's race in her debut marathon. And she was 2.5 minutes down, I think, on the 2 leading women. And look at this, the pace at which she's finishing. Sheila Chipkarui.
That's a big debut. Obviously sub 30 minutes in Valencia, and obviously 2nd and 3rd over the half marathon here previously. She's sub 65 a couple of times over the half marathon distance, and wow, that's one of the fastest debuts as well. So we've seen some quality running, and obviously we've seen some stars of the future at the moment who have set their stalls out for some big marathon careers.
Well, Amane Beriso taking the applause from her compatriots.
Touch on some home as well. We said there was a big number of them inside 2:18 pace.
That's the Ethiopian athlete Mesfin. So Valencia really producing the goods here. So many fast times, and the depth of the results in both men's and women's races is quite phenomenal.
And when you look at the splits in the women's race, she didn't pick the splits up at the end. It was basically just maintaining them. That was a fascinating thing. It almost gave, you know, the feeling as if she had picked the pace up, but I think it was just a case of obviously trying to maintain them. So that vital part in the marathon when the fatigue was kicking in that you know, point between the 30 and 35 and then beyond that. So that's where the damage was done, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think we expressed surprise that Amane Beriso had gone off with Letesembe. As we were saying, the first half of the race, it looked as though it was quite cautious, but that really played well for Beriso, because she was obviously comfortable at that pace. She was in the best form of her life, and at that 30-kilometre point, her experience really told as Gide started to struggle, and Beriso took the lead and then just ran away to win this race.
But she also ran 35 kilometres at world record pace as well, if you take away that first 5 kilometres. So again, will that be something she might aim at in the future? You know, it'd be interesting to see, you know, where she goes from here, whether it is World Championships. You know, that would be fascinating if she is going to line up in Budapest in the summer. And obviously, yes, which of the, if she comes back to Valencia or one of the other marathon majors, where she goes from there, fascinating. 2:20 on the race clock, so just outside 2:20 for 2 more Ethiopian athletes. Another one of our Eritreans, I think, Tesu. But again, the depth.
I think this is the Moroccan athlete, Majita Mayouf, just finishing.
Congratulations, new Ethiopia record. How do you feel?
Rikardi Itoophiyaati maaltu si dhaga'ame?
Baay'ee gammadee jira, dasna hidhee jira.
I am very happy, really. I am very so happy.
What does it mean for her to win in Valencia?
ቫሌንሲያ ማሸነፍሽ ምን ይመስልሻል?
በጣም ደስ ብሎኛል ስላሸነፍኩት። ቫሌንሲያም ቦታም አሪፍ ነው፣ አየሩም ምርጥ ስለሆነ አሪፍ ሩጫ አለው። ግን ፔስ ከኔ ጋር ቢሆን ዋና አድርጌ ሰብር ነበር ብቻዬን ባለው።
She says she is very happy. The course was very fantastic. The weather was very fantastic. The spectator was very fantastic. But she can do today world record. But the pacemaker did not help her. By that case, she missed world record. She is very upset. Okay, by that case.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, she's going to have to get used to a lot more interviews than that. But oh, that could be a national record. Yes.
It's quite phenomenal. Sinead Diver, the Australian, running a massive personal best
45.
Time. So 45. Her personal best
have to say people's
coming
ages,
into this race was 2 hours, 24 minutes and 11 seconds.
Oh, wow.
She has gone almost 3 minutes quicker here today.
So 2 Australian records in the last 24 hours.
Quite phenomenal.
Obviously in different continents, but what they run, the Irish by birth, and obviously she's had a couple of children and absolutely smashed it. Only 5th at the Commonwealth Games.
Only 5th.
What a turnaround.
Yeah.
Wow. So again, the Melbourne Track Club, what a 24 hours they've had. So Sinead, take a huge bit of plaudit. Our hats are off for that run. We talked about 10 national records. That could well be going towards 15 to 20. I think we had a Moroccan national record as well.
Yes.
So just before that.
And we've talked so much about debuts and debutants, but Sinead Diver has got 15 marathons behind her now, 16 today. So
10th in those Olympic Games as well. So,
well, I think, as you say,
yeah,
these are some of the athletes finishing still in very fast times in national records. There's the Italian athlete Giovanna Epis. I think she could be on target for an Italian record, running for the Carabinieri, the Italian sports club. There's Epis coming into the finish. So, as predicted and anticipated by the race organisers, so many national records being set here.
I think a Croatian national record as well, just before that. I think that was Beljak, the Croatian. There she is,
right.
crossing line, yeah. I think that I made that a massive Croatian national record as well. I mean, they're running national records for fun. Matt Rees there, I can see, with the Swansea Harrier vest. So I think that's going to be a lifetime best for Matt. So lots of athletes. I think that's one of the Canadian athletes, Caron there. So people have travelled far and wide, mostly out of their own pocket, for a lot of them to come here and experience it and run lifetime best here. Phenomenal performances, and there you go. That is Matt Rees. Might remember it a few years ago. He was the athlete that helped the London Marathon finisher that was in distress, and today he can celebrate a lifetime best, as well as a whole host of athletes before and after him.
So many of these athletes running personal best times, and a few of them also running national records, particularly in the women's race. There's an interesting comment there, though, James, from Beriso, that she was very happy with her performance, felt she could have gone a little bit faster if she just had a little bit of help over that final quarter of the race when the pacemakers actually, who were in the race specifically for Gidey, stayed back with Gidey, trying to help her to recover, and left Beriso on her own. And as a result, she came home in a national record in a very fast time, but not the world record she was hoping for. And there is the leading Spanish runner, and it's...
I think it's going to be inside the national record, and behind her, Natasha Cochrane as well. What a big run for the Welsh lady.
Fantastic time. There's Marta Gallimani, came into the race with a best time of 2 hours 27 minutes, and she's going to smash the Spanish record for the marathon at the moment, 2:26.51, and Marta Gallimani is going to beat that record, and as you say, chased home by Natasha Cochrane, who's got a best time of 2 hours and 30.
So that's a Welsh record coming up right there, as she chases home a new Spanish record holder.
Well, what a big
wow
result for Gallimani. Wins the Spanish race and breaks the Spanish record by over 30 seconds. That record, Ana Isabel Alonso, and Gallimani is now the new marathon record holder for Spain, and as you say, James, the new Welsh marathon record from Natasha Cochrane, beating her best by over 3 minutes.
Delighted for Natasha. She works hard. She's had setbacks. It didn't go well at the Commonwealth Games. I mean, she put her hands up. It went horribly wrong. But I tell you what, that is some comeback from that. And I know a lot of the Welsh runners will be up this morning watching that before they go out for their long runs. So look no further than that, as well as Spanish runners. They will be hugely inspired by that run there by Marta. That's such a big run. And we talked about the pride they have in the national records being set here as well. They want, obviously, other countries to set national records, but you know, that's going to give them huge pride again.
Well, Gallimani, she, at the press conference on Friday, she said, every race is a learning experience. Every race I feel I can get better. And even though she's already run 9 marathons before today, she's proved that she's right and that she's learnt more, and she's got faster today, and she's run a new Spanish record, beating her best.
Well, she's taken a minute, isn't she, off her own record, and obviously Alonso's record going back to 1995. So, you know, that record had stood the test of time. But Ana Alonso's record now from San Sebastian, your favourite place, Richard, it's gone. It's wiped from the record books. Well, not from the total record books. It now sits at number 2. But almost a minute lifetime best of Marta there for that new Spanish record. But what amazes me here now, look at the masses. The clock hasn't gone over 2.5 hours yet. And it is, you know, just full of runners streaming over the line. You can see the bodies over the line as well. So, you know, there's going to be a few painful walks back to the hotels. There's going to be a few painful walks back to the train station that's a couple of kilometres away. But I tell you what, there's going to be many happy, smiley faces as well.
And a fantastic finishing venue. This amazing city of arts and sciences by the Hemisphere and the Museum of Sciences. A great place to finish the race, and as we've been saying, the weather's been almost ideal. I mean, it's getting quite warm now as these runners come into the finish. Bright sunshine, but still relatively cool, 12 degrees, so probably a little bit warmer in the sunshine, but great scenes here at the finish of the marathon. The 42nd edition, the organisers here made a big thing of 42 editions of 42 kilometres, and there's the new Spanish record holder at the marathon, Marta Galimani. And some of the other top European women finishing. Galimani, she was 11th in the European Championship Marathon in Munich in the summer, but has gone a lot faster here today in Valencia.
So the clock has just ticked over 2.5 hours, so some of these runners will be going inside 2.5 because they'll be on chip timing, remember. They would have started just a few seconds behind, but for these runners, yes, they will just slightly miss out on breaking that 2.5 barrier, but still for many it will keep them hungry and it will keep them coming back. As you said, the organisers were hoping, Richard, weren't they, for the most amount of finishes in this year's edition. It's a popular race that sells out, that's why they're creating the waves, and I'm sure they want to increase those year on year. I think I said earlier, once upon a time it was frowned upon having the marathon because it obviously closed down roads. Now the locals celebrate it. You said the different support around the course, you heard the noise throughout the whole course and the support. They celebrate running here. Turia Park is beautiful in the centre, where it was a riverbed that got dried up, that they did deliberately to create a park. And if you haven't run here as well, it's a lit 5 kilometres that you can go out and back. It's a loop as well. Beautiful place to run in the city, and that's the American, and that's Bergman there. So that, I think, is going to be a big lifetime best for her as well. Yes, it is Jennifer Bergman. She came in with a lifetime best of 2:34.37. And you can see, look at this, look at the pure enjoyment on her face, or maybe the disbelief. Or pain as well. But that's what the marathon means. That's what a lifetime best means. And I know a lot of the American runners and fans are watching this live, so they'll be delighted to see a good run there from Bergman and a new lifetime best.
Yeah, James, we've commented about the hotels that have been full of marathon runners, the station, the 2 stations actually in the city.
There were some excited people at 4 o'clock this morning in our hotel, so
yeah.
And I'm pretty sure there were runners. I'm pretty sure there was a team.
You do wonder what they're going to do next year, because this race is going to grow and grow in popularity.
Marta, enhorabuena, por fin récord de España, ¿te lo crees?
Todavía no, he soñado mucho con él y lo he probado muchas veces y pensaba, no sé qué va a pasar. Pero cuando he visto el ritmo que iba, he terminado con fuerzas, pensaba, hoy no se me puede escapar, hoy tiene que ser el día, hijo, por fin.
¿Qué supone haberlo conseguido en Valencia?
Bueno, para mí es especial porque en 2020 pues lo luché, se me escapó y me quedó esa espinilla de aquí, que siempre me tratan súper bien, que siempre consigo correr muy bien en Valencia, y quería que fuera aquí porque, no sé, porque es una ciudad especial para mí y no sé, es que no sé ni qué decir, estoy súper contenta.
Enhorabuena, Marta.
Muchas gracias.
Well, for non-Spanish speakers, I think Marta was, I hardly need to translate that, do I? She was expressing her delight and disbelief at her run here. A new personal best, a new Spanish record. Her best time, 2:27.08, was set here in Valencia 2 years ago. So she came with hopes of going faster, and the fact that she set a new best time and a new Spanish record, all her dreams have come true. So that's Marta Galimani, the new Spanish record holder at the marathon, and the first place Spaniard in the women's race.
I've been hugely impressed by your Spanish-speaking capabilities, Richard. A man of many talents.
Well, I always say that I can speak a lot of languages if I'm just speaking to runners.
There is a language, isn't there? And you can see that today. There's a connection. They're sharing the marathon journey. And look, you can just see the paces and the pain on the faces there as they come into that home straight. They know they're into this iconic finish. The mats, they've got the water either side of them here at the centre for Arts and Sciences. It's a beautiful location, right in the heart of Valencia. You're a few kilometres walk from the train station, a few kilometre walk from the beach as well. And loads of restaurants, loads of hotels. So as I said, if it's not been on your bucket list, then pen it in. And there's a Serpentine Vest, the London-based club, as well as so many different nationalities, and so many Spanish runners will travel far and wide to be here as well. Because look at the numbers, you can just see the masses are there.
I'm sure they'll have set a record for the number of finishers. I think they were very concerned to go back to the pre-pandemic levels with the 30,000 registrations. Well, if they took 30,000 registrations, which I think they did, then and given the conditions here today, they will have exceeded the previous best of 21,500 finishers. I wouldn't be at all surprised if they've gone over 25,000. So there's our men's result. The big upset with the debutant Kenyan Kelvin Kiptum winning in a phenomenal time, 2 hours, 1 minute, 53 seconds. The Tanzanian Gea in second, equaling the previous course record by Evans Chebet, and the Kenyan debutant Mutiso in third place. And on the women's side, a big surprise also with Amane Beriso overcoming the pre-race favourite Letesembe Gide, winning in a time of 2 hours 14:58, a new Ethiopian record. Letesembe second in the fastest ever time run by a female debutant at the marathon, and another debutant, the Kenyan Sheila Chepkirui, in third place in 2 hours 17:29.
It's also the depth, Richard, on both of those captions, isn't it? So, you know, 7 women inside, 2 hours and 19, and then the depth on the men's side as well. You have to run 2:05 to get in the top, 10 here. That is such a strong depth. And that's why it's, going to continue to grow and grow. They've already, I'm sure, going to be questions on different message boards to is Valencia the premier marathon now in the world? Well, the organisers would love to say yes. And they're going to have half an eye now. They got close to 2 world records today. I didn't think, we never talked about getting close to the men's world record, did we? But I tell you what, we were edging towards it, still a fraction off it, but it's not impossible to say that, in the right field, with the right pacing, because the pacers today probably ended their duties a little bit earlier than could have really helped the race a little bit further, and even going out a little bit more aggressively on the men's and the women's side. So, yeah, I'm sure Mark Rogan and the team, the clogs will already be ticking to how they can find those extra few seconds.
Yeah, there'll be huge satisfaction and delight here in Valencia that they've really moved up the rankings. As you say, James, second fastest time at the marathon in the men's race, and the second fastest in the women's race this year in 2022. So behind Kipchoge in Berlin, 2:01:09. And behind Chepngenich's very fast time in Chicago just 2 months ago. But Valencia has really come of age, I think, today. So many records set. We've been talking about the national records, and I think I didn't count exactly how many there were, but in the women's race we saw records, national records set by Ethiopian, Eritrean, Moroccan, Spanish, Australian and Welsh athletes.
And And probably a few we missed, Croatians. Yeah, just to throw in there.
Yeah, so I think we'll have to go back to our stats. But I think maybe almost 10 records, 10 national records.
I think we've hit that. I think we've hit that
in the women's race alone.
Oh, the women's race alone, absolutely, in the women's race alone. So, yeah. I think the fascinating thing, when you look at the men's and women's, current world best, say you took the top 10, I know it will never happen, but imagine you got all of them on the same start line, that would be the argument then. Would it be a pace race or would it be an absolute championship race? So, I know we can dream about getting them all at Worlds, but that won't happen. There'll be a few that will have to miss it or will miss it, but and obviously you can only have a quota of 3 or 4, depending on defending champions and the quota of being the fastest in the world as well. So not everyone can toe the line at a major championship either, but yeah, it's phenomenal. There you are, Kelvin Kiptum, savouring the moment to go inside 2 hours and 2 minutes. The 3rd fastest time of all time, the fastest debut of all time, and he's still only 23. Wow. Glad to see that is a little bit fatiguing, those legs, so...
Nice that he's got a carpet to lie down on.
It's a nice space to finish a marathon on, it is. And a good payday as well, can't hide that, the course record, the performance times that go into that as well. That will mean a lot to this young Kenyan as well. And a real future, this will set him up now. As I said, he can almost set an asking price now at nearly all the marathons. They will all want him.
Great scenes.
Novalis there, isn't it? That was him biting his shoe.
And there's the female winner, Amane Beriso, with that same look of sheer delight. Look at her skipping over the line, can hardly believe that she has won here. Came in not so much under the radar, but certainly not as the pre-race favourite. And this, by far, her biggest victory in her career. A new national record for Beriso, and faster than her training partner. She'll go back with a little bit of needle there. I'm sure Tigist Assefa, who won in Berlin earlier this year, will run her next marathon knowing that she's got to run a new national record to be the fastest in her training group.
It spices things up, it definitely does. And I think also to see what, happens from the NN running crew as well. Let us about what she does next, obviously going back to the track. Does she give it a little bit longer time? Obviously, they might need to tweak the training somewhat. It'd be interesting to know, how she felt in terms of drinks. We know she missed that first drink station. Did that, we didn't like to think it might kick in at the end, or hate to think it would, but all these little factors, you only need to be 1% out on your preparation or something to happen in the race, and it just won't happen.
Yeah, you always learn so much from your first marathon. I'm sure that would be true of Letta Sembet.
I thought that was a Bingley vest in the middle there, Richard, but I don't think it's a Bingley vest.
Well, these are still very, very impressive finishing times. Running, I think, just outside 6 minutes a mile for the marathon. This is very, very fast running. And this is the Spaniard, Ayad Lamderson, finishing his race just outside his hoped-for time. He was aiming for a new Spanish record. He was about a minute outside that today. Ayad Lamderson.
Yeah, that's right, just outside that Spanish national record that he holds. So at least he he goes home with it. He came with it, he goes home with it, just doesn't improve it. But on the women's side, Richard, we did have a Spanish national record.
Marta Gallimani, again, can hardly believe what she's achieved. Took almost a minute off her best and was over a half a minute inside Ana Isabel Alonso's national marathon record of 2:26.51. Marta Gallimani. There she is with Roy Alfonso and Pacao Barao. Two of the prime players behind this race. Pacao, the race director, and Alfonso, the president of the football club here.
Yeah, they're very proud of what they've built here over the half marathon and marathon distances. It's a busy few weeks for the organisers here. I hope they have a bit of downtime over Christmas. As I said, they will be starting to plan also for next year as well. But, you know, it takes a huge amount of resources and, you know, people and infrastructure to put these races on in the middle of a city, and it is a busy city. You know, getting off the train yesterday, the sheer numbers of people to get from, you know, the train station to here, the number of people in the expo as well. It's a lovely expo down here at the at this futuristic site that we have, you know, been blessed with the finish line as well. But you know, it's a busy area. But I think to close it off, to have that many people in this close proximity. But yeah, as I said, I can't, you know, highlight what a great job they've been doing. But they will know tweaks. They will look at things that they want to improve. You know, they're always looking at different, you know, ways of going through different sections on the course as well. And obviously, you know, the speed that cities grow, don't they, in terms of development, sometimes changes routes as well. But I hope we're at this finish area for a long time to come, because, yeah, it is absolutely iconic.
Yeah, it is absolutely a superb finishing venue. And I think one of the striking things, it's a long time since I've seen a marathon with such depth. These runners streaming into the finish. You know, well under 2 hours, and I think they're about 2:50, but the quality,
2:46
2:46, and they're coming in droves. So this is inside 6.5 minute marathon, 6.5 minute for the mile marathon running. It's still very, very good running, and I think Valencia is going to have no trouble whatsoever in filling its registration next year. It's already grown a lot in the last 5 years, and just
it has, and also the different waves as well. So some of them might be from the different waves, so it could maybe take a few minutes off some of those times, you know, as well. So bit of calf cramp, it looks like, in the one of the vegan runners on the centre of the screen.
Yeah, great for tourism for Spain and for the city, with over half of these runners who are finishing from abroad. Large numbers here from France and from the United Kingdom, Belgium and Italy. And those numbers are only going to grow in the following years.
So again, hopefully this has inspired you if you're just about to go out for your Sunday run, wherever you are time-wise. You might have already done your Sunday run, so you might have the rest of the day to yourselves. But it's been such a great morning here in Valencia, and as Richard says, these runners still way inside 2 hours and 50. So big performances, big club performances, you know, big age group performances as well. So many of our Masters runners in different categories. So many of their different races count towards, you know, the times that they run here will get them into other races, won't it? Their best of age. So when they try and get a different qualifying time. So, you know, that will be really important to them. and also hopefully to justify why you're going to go out and do that training. You know, it's quite hard in these months. You go from the summer where, you know, nice weather. The last couple of months, if you're based, you know, in certain locations, it's been a bit miserable, isn't it, Richard? So it makes that last preparation into a marathon block a bit trickier.
Yeah, it's been very nice, I think, for the two of us to leave behind Britain for the weekend and just come out here, enjoy not only the sights of the city, but slightly warmer temperatures and the sunshine here.
So this is a chance, isn't it, Richard, for us to recap Kelvin Kiptum winning. What a great day it's been, Richard, hasn't it?
A stunning victory for the new Kenyan debutant Kelvin Kiptum, winning in a new course record. And on the women's side, a superb victory for Amane Beriso.
So from myself, James Thee, and Richard Naraka, it's till next year.